Yo, what's up, guys? Wait, I can't hear anyone.
Vamos a ver nada.
Oh, there you go.
Hey,
Hey,
Sonny.
what's up, guys?
What's up?
Welcome, Sonny.
Yo, what's up, William?
Yes.
I
Very
have
well.
I have a standing desk now, so it's one of those electric ones. So the energy is going to be a little bit different now, which is nice.
All right.
Took me ages to set this thing up. Now we can have a fully standing coaching call, which is pretty cool. How's everyone doing? Gwen, Roberts, Anish, Spiros, Sophia, Adam, Cesar, Jugal, Jeremy, Richard. Nice to see you all. Let me go ahead and drop a message in announcements. How's everyone doing?
Great. Doing great.
Gwen, you've been doing quite a lot of events, haven't you? Like going
Yeah,
to-
yeah. Still keeping on tonight again. It's second day of the Gatsby Conf, and they have workshops for like 2 or 3 hours building something.
Nice. I'm actually gonna watch them back. Are they on YouTube right now? Or?
Yeah, the event was last night, and they post everything on the YouTube afterwards.
Nice. Yeah, I do the same thing with Firebase. I always let it play through and I always kind of watch it afterwards, which is pretty cool. No, but I definitely want to check out Gatsby. I think I saw your message and it showed a new build tool or something, but it looked pretty cool. So I'm gonna check that out. Sanjay, what's up? Priyanshi,
What's up?
yo, what's up, man? Avnish, hey guys. Aldo, what's up, man? Guys, go ahead and turn on your cameras if you've got them. And also, I'll start to mention a little bit now, and I'll kind of touch on it afterwards. Guys, we've started a form of success coaches now. So we've started interviews for success coaches. You should have either got an email or Jay would have reached out to you. And has anyone here already scheduled their success coach interview? So I think we have a few people tomorrow. I think Assad, Sophia. We have quite a few people. Yeah, we've got a big list. If you've submitted it to that list, then we're definitely going to get in touch with you. But we've got a pretty cool thing we're working on that side. And we'll have some papathons and a few other things. Anish, you sent me quite a nice message. I was reading through that, and I'll get back to you on that. Nice. Okay. So yeah, people flooding in. Guys, feel free. Get the energy up, like everyone get chatting. I feel like we're in like a shy schoolroom wherever nobody wants to talk. Any wins?
Dance now.
That's it. Yeah, get in the mood, guys. It's just like get everyone loosened up. What's up, Tommy?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Oh yeah,
good
Sunny,
to see
somebody
you.
asked a very good question, which is, hey Sunny, like what is the role for a Papa coach? Even I would like to know that. Yeah.
Yeah. We're working on a few things. It's quite a proactive role. So we have, Cesar says, where's the chair? I'll show you that in a sec. Yeah, but we have quite a few things with the success coach role. So we're trying to make it in a form of scrum. So like the success coaches are going to essentially be a team, because our goal is to make you learn like the sort of practical things that you're going to be using in a production environment without realizing that you're learning those things. So like organizing like a team events, organizing sort of code reviews and things like that in a scrum organized fashion every week in a fun way, like not a really serious kind of way, but it's going to be really sort of quite fun and interactive, and that will involve sort of peer-to-peer code reviews, involve papathons, hackathons, the new. Oh, let me go ahead and mute that 1 sec. Yeah. But yeah, that's just to name a few things that the success coaches will be doing. And also, guys, it's just like another level of sort of support. Like, again, just like how we have the diamond members, that sort of group of individuals I've noticed are really like, if there's a question, boom, they're on it to kind of move forward. We want the same kind of dynamic with the success coaches, and also to kind of push forward the element, because everyone is doing it. I do sort of see people reaching out to other students, helping them out, kind of moving forward in that approach. But I think a structured form of like success coaches or sort of mentorship can be a better way to reach more people and help more people out. So I think, and it's going to give the success coaches, they're going to have a lot of power in terms of what they can do inside the community. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We've got, me and Jay are working on we've got a long list of things we're trying to build out, and it's going to have a few processes in place, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to basically give the community another level of life. So my goal, I've got quite a few missions with the community that I'm trying to hit, and that's why that's why it's been a bit quiet on the sort of I'd say on the course front, because we've been working a lot on the back end sort of things. But yeah, we're moving pretty fast on that side, guys. But yeah, any wins before that? So Anish says, do we all get a chance to become a success coach? Yes. So all you had to do is submit a success coach. There's a form. I can give you guys the form. It's pretty much, Jay's dropped it in announcements. If you scroll a tiny bit up, you'll see it. There's an application form. You just need to click it, pretty much fill out the details, and then we'll reach out to you and schedule an interview. And it's not a long interview, guys. It's about 15 minutes. We pretty much go ahead and ask you a few questions, and then we'll move forward once we sort of we've done that step. But yeah, like I said, it's trying to get you guys to feel what a production environment is like without realizing that you're learning those things. And I think that's the best way of doing it, the least resistance way of kind of getting used to production without feeling like you're doing it. So guys, with that said, oh yeah, Cesar, so where's the chair? Yeah, cool thing now. We have a standing desk now. So it's one of those electric ones, and I press a button and it'll sit down, and then the chair will come back. So you'll see me sit down in a minute, because you gotta get used to standing up for ages. But yeah, guys, anyone go ahead and said, so Cesar says, you said plans and mission, plans for this month. I'll be dropping, you know what? I think more visibility to the community will be really good. So we're going to work on some kind of, newsletter to all the members, maybe weekly, to kind of get that rolling. So that way you guys know exactly what's going on, kind of, because what we are trying to do is kind of breathe like life into the community, which is why we've also took a step back on YouTube. So that way we can kind of focus on the community and the members themselves. And then once we get that kind of back up, then we'll go back to YouTube. Otherwise, it's kind of like, yeah, if I'm on YouTube, it takes a lot of energy, and then I have to kind of balance. So the React status newsletter is always coming when we start a coaching call. Yeah, I saw that as well. Priyanshu says, yes, I do have a win, even though they're not paying clients. I got 10 new potential prospects, and all of them will be given an hour of my time per day. Okay, so Priyanshu, I actually want to speak about that one. Asad, that's a really good idea. Message me and Jay, and we'll kind of get moving on that. But Priyanshu, when you say 10 clients, what are you referring to? Because an hour of your time per day for 10 clients.
It's actually, it's not an hour of my time per day. It's just like, one client per day for 1 hour.
Okay.
It's not 10 hours, it's just 1 hour.
Okay, so one client. Yeah. Okay, nice. Yeah, I would say, yeah. Like, and are they right now? They're prospective clients. So you're doing it for free.
Yeah.
So guys, that's a good shout. So I usually get an extreme. I usually get like kind of somebody asking, how do I land a coaching client? And I'm like, okay, what have you done so far? Sonny, I'm charging pretty cheap. And I'm like, that's your problem. You're charging straight away. You're charging, right? Like, look at what Priyansh is doing. He's got 10 people all for free. Like, that's what you need to do. You need to flip it, get really good at doing it for free. And then you can pretty much go ahead and put a price on it afterwards. But yeah, we're really kind of pushing forward. But Asad, I really do like that.
By the way, Sunny, if you are going to do blogs, do include me, because I'm just like, I've learned copywriting recently, and that will definitely help you as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, sure. Anyone, guys, remember, it's an open community. So literally jump in, get involved. All of this stuff is great because blogs will help you kind of, you can pretty much contribute as much as you want to a blog, as well as like you can pretty much consume all the information for everyone else. So pop-up blog would be pretty cool. Funny you said something about copywriting. Has anyone here done copywriting before? If you're not good at writing, right, or like right, then the way to test yourself is, imagine you had to write me an email and you just built a course tomorrow and you want to sell it to me, right? Are you going to be sitting there kind of frozen at the keyboard, or are you kind of do you know how to kind of structure your email and how to get my attention and what the hook is and that sort of action points? And there's different frameworks you can use, but that's a skill that I would recommend everyone picks up, like copywriting, because people actually pay a huge amount of money for copywriters. And I just found this service called conversion.ai, which you pretty much put in your company and what your description is. And I swear to God, it's an AI engine and it generates really good copy. So if anyone was interested in that, you can go ahead and check it out. Yeah,
These
but we have
AI engines are just gonna ruin a bunch of different jobs, you know.
yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy. And honestly, like you can't go wrong with improving your copywriting skills, because even if it comes down to closing a client, even if it comes to whatever you're doing, your copywriting skills are extremely important, just like your soft skills. So remember, we're all here to kind of learn how to code, but don't ever overlook the soft skills, the copywriting skills, all that stuff, because that comes into play. And it pretty much is the difference between you landing someone and not. So it like sometimes you can pretty much come across really powerful if you word it right. Okay, but guys, any other wins? So Priyanshu came in first with a win. He's got 10 potential clients he's teaching. Anyone else want to share a win before we get started? Feel
I
free.
got an interview.
Oh, nice. Who was that?
Robert.
Robert, what's up, man? Okay, so how did you get your interview and what is it for?
For coaching in European Coding School
Oh, nice. How did you get that?
with the WhatsApp clone.
Nice, dude. So did you apply to them or did they reach out to you? How did that work?
There is a Discord channel and a showcase. I showcased my WhatsApp clone and they contact me.
Nice. Okay. And what's the process now? Are you pretty much, is it coaching other students how to code? Is it part of some kind of syllabus?
Yeah, coaching others.
Dude, that's incredible. Really, that's really nice. I would suggest, like, even in the coaching calls, maybe start taking notes, watch over the other coaching calls, pretty much what you can do. But honestly, amazing. And it would be a really good opportunity for you to push yourself to that next level. Because when you start coaching it, you're going to realize, oh, damn, I need to learn Redux a little bit more. Or, oh, damn, I need to learn hooks a little bit more. But that's awesome. That's a huge win. Honestly, that's a really, really big win. So Johnson says, Sonny, do you have a link to the music you play when you're doing your coding? You promised you a link, but I think I missed it. Yes, I sent out an email, Johnson, but it's Epidemic Sounds. I'll share it in just a sec. It's a public playlist that I've made now. It's called the Papa Playlist. And in case anyone wants it, because I don't know who listens to it, but I know that you guys love that playlist when I'm coding on live streams. So I'll share it right now, and then we can get started. It's a little treat for everyone. So James says, I start my first developer job today. Oh, crap, dude. That's sick. Nice.
Yeah,
And-
I got the job. So it's a crazy story. My dad, he's a realtor and in Raleigh, North Carolina. I live in Florida right now.
Yeah.
And his wife sold them because they sell houses together. His wife sold him a house and he just graduated NC State computer science degree. And I spoke with him in October and then finally got a hold of him. He reached out to me just a few weeks ago, said, hey, we have another opening in our company if you're interested. So I spoke with the owner of the company, a couple other people, and I start today in 2 hours.
Oh, nice. Okay, so
yeah.
this is your little prime getting warmed up, right?
So it's like a freelancing position. They promise like 20 to 30 hours a week, $40 an hour. So kind of cool. I mean, and it's building their website. So they sell medical supplies. I'm just building websites using React. So
nice. Cool. That's awesome. Definitely let us know how the journey goes. Like if you get any hiccups with it. But yeah, that's incredible. And honestly, that's how it goes sometimes. Word of mouth or who you know and sort of time and place. But LinkedIn, things like that, if you don't have sort of like a network of, because now it's kind of hard if it's not a family member or a friend, but LinkedIn is the next best thing to sort of reach out and do literally just send code messages to prospective people and you'll be surprised who bites. But James, amazing, man. And that's not how it goes. And good luck.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, so I think what we'll do is jump in. Gwen actually said he received a grant for my music project. Oh, nice. That's sick, man. Nice. What's up, Ben? Let's see Ben kind of creep in halfway through. Okay, guys, let's get started. So today we do not have a set agenda right now. It's an open session. So pretty much first come, first serve in terms of ideas. So anyone want to go ahead and shoot a topic, an idea, something, and we'll figure out some kind of syllabus. Asad says React animations. I actually found it really cool. I'm working with this guy. I'll let you know how it goes, but William says, Sonny, I'm going home tomorrow on holidays. Oh, nice. Good, man. You look like you're in a holiday mood. That's cool, man. Hashit, so Prince says Redux. Okay. Redux is good. Frame of motion. Okay. So we've got a few of these. Forward ref. Okay. Enhance UI. So I think frame of motion I've kept on pushing off every week because we end up going on some kind of tangent. So Adam says, if talk about animations at some point, I put a video animation focus project I'm working on CSS mastery channel Slack. Nice. Okay. Awesome stuff. I'll do that. Storyboarding with advanced hooks. I think let's do Framer to begin with, because Framer is something that I have yet to touch on. Really, I haven't really done much Framer, but Adam has definitely done quite a lot of Framer, and I think it will be a cool thing to jump into. So let's go ahead and share my screen. And I've actually upgraded my Zoom setup as well, so now I should be able to share my screen easier. There we go. Okay, so you guys can see, and let's go ahead and open up a tab. Let's go to Framer motion. Now, if you're wondering what Framer is, it's pretty much, it's an animation library for React. Okay, so this is literally going to be me running through it as well with you, and we'll just figure it out together, and we'll just have a lot of fun with this. So I'm going to quickly make you guys full screen. Okay, and let me also bring up the chat. Let me go ahead and say chat and participants. Cool. And also, guys, before we get started, in terms of course content, once Web Dev Essentials is finished, would you like me to move on to a specific content pack? Because I feel as though it may not benefit everyone the most by doing CSS mastery next. So some kind of specific content pack, feel free to just shout out. Redux as well. Okay, so we'll definitely do Redux next. Yeah, Gwen, that's literally read my mind a bit. Next.js was something I was definitely thinking about moving on to next, because I think it will bring a huge amount of power, and the timing's perfect. Okay, so Ben, Spyros, and Ben said next. Pranchi says next. Tommy, okay. Guess we figured it out. I'm gonna sit down one second, guys. And look at this. It's pretty cool. All right. Yeah, it's a bit slow, so we have to kind of give it a little delay. Okay, so frame of motion. Let's talk about it. So check out the API. So I know Adam's used it, but I haven't used it much. So let's go ahead, set up a React app, and then let's just pretty much dive into it. And feel free to literally unmute and shout at me whenever you want. I actually had to restart my entire laptop. I had to restore everything from fresh, not even a time machine backup. So it's working a lot faster now, and hopefully I shouldn't have any sound issues now. Okay, so npx create React app, and we'll say Framer demo. And you know what? I will do template Redux, because everyone keeps asking about Redux, so we could probably incorporate Redux in somewhere. Okay, what's this?
I think you're sharing the wrong screen, Sonny.
Oh, am I?
Yes.
Oh, can you see the big screen?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let me go ahead and share this one. There we go.
That's okay.
Oh, nice. You can see my Notion and everything. Nice. Okay, let's go ahead and here's this one. Okay, so you guys should be able to see it. All right, yeah, so you didn't actually see what I was talking about in Framer then. Okay, so we're on framermotion.com. We're going to go ahead and implement. I think they should have a nice little demo here of Framer. Here we go. So tweak the parameters to animate. So you guys can see, look at that. Like, even if we move it a little bit and scale, it's got really smooth animations. And if you've ever had to do animations before, even this kind of stuff, right? Very like kind of nice additions on a web page. And I'm going to figure it out with you today. But what's this one? Complex events and gestures. Oh, nice. So you can see, look how many different events are getting fired off, guys. Look, if I let go of it, can you see it's even got motion, like momentum involved as well, which is actually a lot harder than you would think. So yeah, we have quite a few things. We even have scroll, path. What is this one? Path, gestures. Oh, nice. And drag. Now imagine if you had this in your portfolio and you just had like all your little logos kind of, kind of animating around for like Next.js and all this other stuff. It would look really, really good. Okay, so framework runs on motion. And look, little use cases like that would be extremely nice. Branching, nice, thank you. Oh God, I've installed Avast because my computer was being a bit crazy. Okay.
Sonny, can I have a question?
Go for it, dude.
Yeah, what's today's topic actually? I came late, so.
Oh yeah, so today's topic is we're going to start with frame of motion. We've set up an app with Redux as well. So we can pretty much go ahead and kind of chuck some of that in as well. But for now, we're doing frame of motion, which is animations inside of React.
Okay.
Frame of motion is quite a popular library as well. Cesar says, Sunny, one day could you do some kind of simulation what awaits us an interview? I think it could be very useful. Yes. And I'm actually going to sort of tie that into success coaches so we can do a really nice sort of thing with that. Adam says I use frame of motion, GSAP and a few other things. Yeah, I saw Adam. Adam, do you mind sharing your sort of demo of the app that you wrote and used Framer for? Because that'll be handy to show everyone. And in the meantime, I'm going to go CD, Framer. Let me make this bigger for you guys. There you go. And then I'm going to go ahead and say code dot. And then there we go. Okay. There we go. All right. So Adam sent it. So, oh, it's a YouTube video. Okay. Animation Lab. Oh, so Adam, you actually made the Animation Lab. Okay. Or was this a sort of, let me go ahead and check this on. Oh, nice. Can I request to unlock the forward dev essentials course? Yes, we're adding to it at the moment. Oh, nice. Okay, this is good. Yeah, guys, I would say literally make something like this afterwards. Test all the different things. So look at this, even if you go down there. This section, I found it free. Look how nice this looks, guys. So Adam, you created all of this. That's cool, man. He goes, yeah, that's a project I started working on. We'll continue to build as I find cool animations. Nice. That's
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that's a really nice way of like demonstrating it. Yeah, that's a really nice way of demonstrating. Literally just having a page that you can play around with, and then eventually kind of tie that into a portfolio and boom, you're golden. So now we're going to open up our app.js. Let me see if this is all fixed now. Oh, yes. No more freezing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete logo, delete setup tests, and we have a blank canvas. And then obviously, once we get started, we're going to do yarn start. Okay. Perfect. Also,
Sunny,
just a reminder, yeah.
Logo would be a good idea.
What was that?
Don't you think that removing the logo from app.js would be a good idea because it will help skips in?
Yeah, I'll check that in.
Sorry, what is main difference in yarn and npm actually? Npm start and yarn start.
So honestly, not a huge load of difference in terms of what you're going to actually realize. But what I would recommend is pretty much start with yarn, start with npm, because it's just, you don't have to do anything extra for it. But yarn is going to be a little bit faster, in my opinion. So it's a little bit faster and it's a little bit cleaner, and the kind of the UI and sort of the feedback it gives you, in my opinion, is nicer. Slight differences to know. When you're using yarn, you'll have a yarn.lock file. Okay. When you're using a npm, you'll get a package lock file. Now, if you see a package lock file in a project, use npm. If you see yarn lock in a file in a project, use yarn. But if you want to switch, it's not the end of the world. All you have to do is pretty much go ahead and delete the lock file and do yarn or npm install, and you pretty much reset it with that. But the lock files are quite important, especially if you're working in a production environment. So if you go into a production environment and you see a yarn lock, just use yarn to abide by what they've set, because lock files prevent you from, basically ensures that all the developers are using the exact same dependencies. Otherwise you can have headaches when that sort of stuff happens. So we're going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to go to the div, and I'm going to go ahead and where we have header, I'm going to go ahead and say h1 abc. I'll make this lowercase a, go into app.css, get rid of everything, index.css, and I'll go ahead and remove the margin. So this is just a little habit you should get used to. And then you have a clean slate. So there we go. Very, very clean slate. Give me one sec, guys. Go ahead and chunk this down. Why is it there we go. Yeah, so loud. Okay. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and do the following. So I'm going to refresh. There we go. Okay. So we got a clean slate. So at this point, what we're going to do is, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and say Framer motion demo. Save. There you go. Framer motion demo. Get rid of this for now. Get rid of this for now. And then let's get everything up and running. Cool. And guys, again, if you have any questions anytime, feel free to jump in. Also referring to yarn versus npm, npm you do npm install, or npm I, yarn you do yarn add. Okay, so in this case, frame of motion is what we want to add. So again, I go over to my app. I'm going to add a new window. I'm going to say yarn add frame of motion. There we go. It goes ahead, and in my opinion, yarn is a lot nicer, the UI, when it kind of works with the terminal. And then it goes import motion from frame of motion. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just pop it in for now. There we go. It's already installed. Everything looks good. And let's go to topics. So motion components. They're the core of the motion API. Is a motion component for every HTML and SVG element. They work exactly the same with additional props. Cool. And then you've got animations. So you can pass in different variants. So hidden, visible, okay, gestures, and so forth. Let's click on examples and have a look. So we've got motion.div. Okay, I wonder if it's motion dot. Okay, so it's going to be literally the exact same. It'll be for what we want. Motion compose can select hover, tap, and drag. Okay. Let's go to, let's have a look at quick start. Animations. How to animate in frame of motion. Let's look at the examples. Pershun, yeah, we were just doing frame of motion today. So let's go ahead and check it out. So we've got the component, motion div, animate, scale 2, transition. And in this case, it's just going to be on load. Okay, so on load, it goes ahead and animates. So let's go ahead and implement that as a starting point. And we're going to put this in. And in fact, because it's already a div, I'm wondering if it's going to replace this one. Now, why is my formatter not working? Then what format is configure? There we go. And wrap. Like I said, because I had to reset everything, I have to change a few things. There we go, wrap. Cool. And if we make this a non-self-closing component, I wonder if we can have some contents inside. So say h1 saying hello. Okay, so you see that, guys? It went ahead and it kind of outgrew the page a little bit, but see, it kind of like flies off for some reason. Let's have a look. Scale to transition, blah, blah, blah. So animate prop concept of object of values. Motion will automatically animate to new state. Animation creates transition prop. Let's have a look at this sandbox. And this is what I'd say, whenever you're learning something new, play around with it. Like this is how you learn, right? You pretty much go ahead and have a look at like sort of examples of the code and just mess around with it, change the values and see what it does and so forth. So if we change this to that, you said scale changes, and then have a look at the, in this case, we've got example. Let's have a look at index.tsx. And here you've got refresh, set count, example key. example container styles.css. And they've got background. Okay. So I wonder if we need to first, let's have our first surrounding div. And then let's just go ahead and say this is going to have a class name of app, like so. And then inside of here, what I'll do is open up app.css, get this prepared for us. And then we'll have a h1 saying test app. Okay. And then this one, you can go ahead and just give it a height of 100 view height and a width of 100%. Let's give it a background color of, let's just say red. Okay, so you see we're taking up the full thing. And then inside of it, what we'll do is we'll have a little sort of box. So something like this, right? So let's have a look at how they've done it. So they have example, and that goes into example, and then that's a motion div. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a component, and we're going to call it like some kind of, yeah, we'll just do example for now. We'll change this to like a nicer color. We'll do like a blue. Yeah. Oh my God, these colors are so bright. Okay, so we'll go ahead and create new components. We'll go ahead and say example.js, RFCE, and then here, let's go ahead and change this to a motion div. So motion, oops. So that, got this line, motion. And then here we can go ahead and say motion.div. Just wondering if my extensions are here. Yeah, they are. Okay, motion div. And this is actually, interestingly, a self-closing component, but we'll get into that in a sec. So self-closing, and then let's go to our example and see. So you've got an animate prop that you can pass in with the scale. So let's go ahead and just do that as a basic example. Okay, so for now, we can't actually see much, one, because it's not even being used inside the app. So we need to go ahead and use it. And if some of this is going over your head at this point, then it's completely fine. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is just make sure you go through React Basics so you understand how to use components and set things up. Okay, nice. Thank you, Anish. Works as a wrapper as well. That's what I was wondering. So in this case, yeah, we don't want a self-closing. Let's have a, for now, what I'll do is I'll just make a little box and then we'll kind of mess around with it. Okay, so where is our little example container? That is here. See, they're wrapping it inside of example container. So in our case, let's have a look. They've done background of white, border radius, and width and height. Now, if we were going to do a similar thing, and then once you get a working example, then it's a lot easier to, this is exactly what I do when I'm kind of messing around with stuff. So what I'll do is I'll say, let's just say div.app container, save, and then here, I'll target my app container, and I'll go ahead and say, there you go. Okay. So at this point, we can see the little app container, but our example isn't really doing much. There's this kind of interest here. So inside of index, maybe it's the key. I'm wondering, is it the key that causes the animation to happen? Okay, so transition, let's add a transition in. Okay, and he says motion div animate scale, transition timing function, class name, component, motion div, use like this for Rode.js and Netflix. Oh, nice, you used it in the Netflix code. Oh, that's pretty cool actually. Okay, so in this case, you put the component inside of it. I'm just wondering, I just want this to scale a little bit, firstly though. So if we repeat this, so I want this effect to occur. So Oh, okay, so they've got some other stuff happening over here with the refresh. Do we need to give it a key? Is that what I'm missing here? Because some emotion libraries, you have to give it a key. If I just give this a random key. Animate, transition, duration 0.5, scale 2. Yeah. Is it the way I've set up my app?
Sonny,
Yeah.
I think you have to give an initial first and then animate.
An initial first.
Yeah, I think.
An
So
initial.
scale 0 and then scale 2, I think.
Okay, so an initial. Okay. Not yet. So look. Adam is as Adam here still. Adam, any idea? So look, frame motion, keyframes. Animate scale 2, duration 0.5. Animation can be configured using transition, yes. Motion prompt. Now I'm wondering if it's this bit that I'm sort of missing out on, because that's where we basically are triggering the animation. So let's have a look at the refresh. So example looks fine for now. Refresh we can leave for now. Refresh on click, set count, return. The confusing part here is that we don't really have anything else happening. I mean, all refresh is doing is a simple click. So even if we were to have a button here, it should have the same impact as that without the sort of fancy spinning. If we were going to go ahead and say a button which said click me, we should see this in a sec. Oh no.
I think it went behind the white square. I saw it for a second.
Oh really? Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Background overflow hidden display margin view height. Let me actually go ahead and do, I think actually, because it could be that we have 100% width, which is not going to max it out. So let's do 100 view width. Let's see. No, it's still not doing it.
Do you need to call something on a use effect when it loads or something?
Yeah. Just wondering if we had, let's to check it underneath. No. I mean, worst case, I can absolutely it. I just want to see if it's going to have the same effect. If it's. So if we gave this a class name, let's just say test for now. Very messy. Oh God, what happened here? What have I got all this? Just a. This is not following them, guys. It's just sort of testing something. Let's just do position, absolute. Let's try and try something out. Let's say top 0. Okay, there we go. We got our button. So I just want to see if when we do set count, so if I do an on click and we have some kind of arrow which says set the count, I'm wondering if the animation is triggering on the re-render. Okay. So you see the animation is just triggering on a re-render. So in this case, what if we were going to have a similar thing? I'm just curious as to, it shouldn't be a reason for it to trigger like that, but then the count. Okay. Key. a button which says click me. And we'll do the same thing. We'll say on click and we'll say set the count to become count +1. Use state is not defined. Let's import the use state. Okay. So it's definitely not that then. Example container. Motion div animate. Button arrow initial rest. I really do want to get to use this though, because this is really nice. Adam, are you, if you're there, you have any idea or a hint on or sort of idea as to what is going on here? Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll show you how I would pretty much go around doing this. Okay. Motion div. Motion div. Same thing, functional component. Okay, so let's check out the docs. How to animate in frame of motion. Because we're not getting any animation, which is strange. Oh, wait a sec. Unless actually. Example container div. There we go. Okay, so actually it's a div inside of it. And oh, okay. Okay, that was a very stupid mistake on my behalf. So look what's happening here is in their CSS, they're targeting the example container, which is the one at the parent level. So here you've got the example container, and then there's a div inside of it, because if we click into this component, it renders out to become a motion div. Okay, so in styles.css is example container div, right? So in our case, it will be app container div. Now in this case, you can see we should, there we go. Oh, I was going a bit crazy with that. Right. So God, when you got 54 people on you as well, you're like, oh, attention. Well, we did it though. Okay, so let's go ahead and do scale 2. And look at that, we've already got some quite nice silky animation, right? So that's pretty nice. And like and also whoever suggested the oh, Alex is gonna run down and buy a Coke. Please don't serve it until I'm back. Oops. All right, so here, whoever gave the suggestion for initial scale as well, that was a very good shout. Because we can have that here. I wonder if you can do decimal as well. Yeah, you can. Nice. Okay, you can use style components with motion div. Yes, you can. That's actually a very good shout as well. So eventually we'll combine all of this together, which will be very nice. So there we go. Okay, so let me go ahead and do something like this. Cool. Now you can see even on the re-renders, it's causing this to change. Actually, that's changing only because the key is linked to that. So if I go ahead and have a single one, you notice how the click doesn't change. That's an important point, guys. So the reason why their example, every time they click a button, it changes is because their count is the key for the motion div, okay? So with our one, if we make it some unique gibberish, right, it will do it the first time, it won't ever change. If we make it the count, then obviously every time we click that button, it's going to change the key, which means it needs to re-render that component. So, okay, so depending on what use case you want, you could use that, but it's quite a handy little thing. Okay, so in that case, pretty cool. So we've got a simple animate working mount. When a component mounts, it will automatically animate the values. The animate is different from style initial. Keyframes is pretty cool. All right, so let's actually have a look at the examples now again. Okay, so we've got the first example down, the animation one. So this is pretty simple. Pretty much goes ahead and does that. Now keyframes. Oh, this is a bit more interesting. So scale 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, rotate 0, 0, 270, 270, border radius changes a bunch. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is actually, if this is how simple it is, then it might be much more powerful than I had thought as well. Because if you've ever had to do keyframes, you'll know that it kind of just, I mean, the reason why I don't honestly do keyframes is because I just can't be bothered sometimes. It's more of a lazy thing. But I would only use them if I absolutely had to have a little smooth animation. But if it's this simple, in terms of this is one keyframe, this is the one that corresponds to it, and this is the border radius that corresponds to it. And then it goes into the second keyframe, third keyframe, fourth, fifth. And I'm pointing at this because it's probably in line with the array, then it should be pretty good. So let's go ahead and change this up. So I'm going to copy this animate. And if we go to our example, and then we go to our animate and change it to let's go ahead and okay, there you go. Right now, how do we adjust speed of transition? Okay, there we go, duration. Let's do like, nice. Okay, let me go ahead and center this. So that way we can get it pretty much nice. So let's go app to CSS, app.css. Let's do display grid. We'll do a quick little hack for this. Display grid, place item center. And I found this trick out in a Google talk, which is pretty cool. Let me see if we can kind of center it. It centers everything, so you might not want to have a bunch of stuff there. But in this case, look at that. Oh, very nice. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll have a little click me to, let's just say click me to restart animation. So that's pretty cool, right? So in terms of keyframes, if you've never done like video editing or something like that before, keyframes is kind of like, so Anish says, can you use transition timing function as well? Yes. So I assume you mean like ease in, ease out. That's, yeah, okay. So ease in, ease out and all that. If you've never used that, basically you have different types of animations, right? I won't go too far into it, but think of like when a nav bar pops out of the screen, right? It tends to be quite extremely fast on the initial click, right? Because you just, all you care about is seeing the nav bar. But then as it kind of reaches the endpoint, it kind of slows down, right? So I'm sure that one's called ease out. And then you have the opposite, which is ease in. Right, so if you close it, it would be ease in, which means the initial sort of thing can move in slow and then it kind of speeds up and it ramps up. So there's like a speed ramp, right? And you have different types. You have ease in and out, and you can also create your own sort of like a sort of speed ramping. And think about it because it gives you a really slick animation when you're sort of working with things. Now, if we were going to go and see this one, for example, like, can you see how this one's actually a bit more like kind of nicer, however they do it, but you see how like the speed pretty much is immediate and then it kind of, I wouldn't say it ramps in, but they have their own thing here. Maybe that's not the best example to use, but we'll get into that anyway. Okay, so let's jump back into the examples here. But we've got the keyframes, cool. And let's actually modify this a little bit. So if you don't know what I mean by keyframes, then you can see, so basically a keyframe is basically saying at the first point, do this set of things. And then at the second point, change it by these values. At the third point, change it by these values. So think of it this way. We've got 3 arrays here, okay? At the first point, you see we've got basically these ones are grouped together. Okay, so you see if that makes sense, right? You've got the scale is going to be 1, the rotation is going to be 0, and the border radius will be 20. Okay. And then the second, then it will kind of transition over to the second point where it will change from 1 to scale 2. The rotation is 0 and the border radius is, so basically then it'll move on to this one. And then the border radius didn't change. Right? I'm sorry, I think my thing's super thick, but you guys get the kind of point that I'm going for there. So let me go ahead and make it a bit more thinner. There you go. Yeah, so you guys can see that this one basically gets into play. Right? And then the same thing happens for the next one. Now, how does it figure out the speed? It basically will take your duration and spread out your keyframes accordingly, which is a lot easier than if you do it the sort of typical CSS way. Okay, so now if I was going to sort of simplify this animation quite a lot, let's go ahead and do something like, let's get rid of these, let's get rid of this. Let's just have a simple sort of flip or something here. So let's go ahead and say 50%. And now we should see some kind of change happen. So you can see it took 5 seconds to move from keyframe 1 to keyframe 2, right? So see you later, Kevin. Right? Yeah. So Anish says, if only I knew earlier I could use it with combinations. Thanks for that. Yeah, I honestly didn't know that you could do this in Framework, because this is a lifesaver. Honestly, this is a very good feature. Because now what it's doing is it's taking these 2 keyframes, and it's actually very simple to write when you think about it. You just set your sort of, it's all based on your array, and then it will split out based on your duration. So in this case, we've got 1, 0, 20% duration of 5 seconds. If I want to make this a lot quicker, we can make it 2 seconds, and I go ahead and restart my animation. You can see, yeah, pretty nice. Now think of it this way, right? Imagine you're scrolling down a page and you had like the skills I'm good at, right? And then basically little things are kind of popping in and out and kind of like expanding. And as a front end developer, you're showing that you can do front end animation, right? You don't, what's better, right? Saying, I am this good at animations, like literally a bar, which is like 7 out of 10. That doesn't show them anything, right? But if you have a page where they can pretty much go ahead and as they scroll down, they see all this nice, silky, smooth animations flying through in and out. Obviously, don't overdo it. It's not like Star Wars, like things shouldn't be flying in and out, right? But it should be subtle, slick, just like how Apple kind of do it, right? I'm a big Star Wars fan, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering. All right, so let's go down. We've got the variant here. So variant, you can see they've just pretty much tied this one down into, we have is open. So you can pretty much go ahead and have special transition staggered children. I wonder what that is. Okay, so in this case, it's pretty much just using a ternary operator to define if it's open or closed. And then you can see, oh, the variants are here. Go ahead, right?
Sunny,
Yeah,
I have a question.
go for it.
Yeah, I just came right now, so I have missed the first part. This animation you're making is just a circle here. But if I want to put any pictures, any images, I can do that, isn't it? And do the
Yes.
same.
Yeah, right now, all I have, remember, right now, all I have is a div, right? But what you could do is let's go ahead and make this like a, let's actually make this a bit of content. So let's have like a div here, and let's just say something like H1, saying hello world, something like this. And you can see, like it kind of, obviously right now I haven't started it, right? It's just kind of randomly sitting in the div, which is why the border radius is cutting it. If I was going to change the border radius here to like, let's just say 0, then you can see it fits, right? So the box is actually correct, and you got hello world in there. But imagine we changed our rotation to 360 or something. Right, so imagine now all you would need to do is have, and obviously this isn't the best UI, but it's quite powerful in terms of what we're saying, right? And then let's imagine we had an image here. So let me grab a random picture of something. Let me just grab my sort of Slack URL. Let's see if this one works. There you go. Let's see if that works. Oh God, okay, it's huge. But you can see pretty much Aisha, if I had, let's go ahead and just zoom out for now, and then I'll fix the CSS after. You can see as I come onto it, the whole picture will spin, right? So Yes, you can have anything in there at the moment. And obviously here you should have a class name, set a size and accordingly and things like that,
Yeah.
right?
Thank you.
But very, very powerful what you can do here. And you guys see like that's actually really quick. Like, and as soon as I look at that code, I know that, okay, there's 2 keyframes because I see arrays of 2 and pretty much is very simple. It goes from 1 to 2, it rotates from 0 to 360. And the body radius is going from a slight radius to something which is a lot less, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Now, if we go ahead and change this, I wonder if we leave this as an empty. Okay. You have to kind of match your keyframes, it looks like. Otherwise, it doesn't work. All right. That's actually pretty smart. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this. We've got hello world. Cool. So at this point, let's have a look at the variants. Okay. So variants, you can see we have 2 variants. We have open and closed. Right now, this is going to be very good. Now, most portfolios websites have some form of nav bar. So in this case, let's recreate this in our own sort of form. Okay. Now you can see they've got a toggle which has an on click, right? And then they have items. Now items, it must be this big drop down, or maybe it's just this one here. But let's go ahead and get this variance sort of working. Right. So you can see the animate changes it to open or closed, and then that corresponds with the variant key. So what we're going to do is we're going to have variants as well. Okay. We're going to have, they have it inside of their component with the, okay. And they're doing motion.nav. Now, if you didn't know, in HTML, you have divs, but you also have HTML5 elements like header, nav, and so forth. Now you don't need to do it. You don't need to have nav or header, but it's going to improve your SEO, right? Because it allows the sort of web scrapers on Google to come in and say, okay, that's a nav bar, that's a header. It saves, it makes sure they don't miss it, right? So, and SEO, yeah.
I was just thinking I can mix up the frame of motion and the React flip move also as well, right?
Yes, but I don't know if you. I remember every
like
time
kind of like something like revolving and then suddenly, you know, like with the keys and something popping from inside, you know, to get that kind of an effect.
You definitely could, but I would probably, if you're going to use Framer, I'd probably maybe do it all in Framer just to sort of have a smoother experience. Because every time you add one of these libraries in, bear in mind, you are adding a little bit of weight.
Regarding the weight, actually, like this is the issue I was facing. I don't know, like if anyone has experienced it, but my system was kind of dying out when I was using Framer Motion, and while I used it for the Road.js, and you know, when I used it in my mobile, it was working absolutely fine, but in my system, it was like super duper slow, and the experience was like really bad.
So a few reasons why that can happen. One, your React logic is flawed somewhere, because, for example, if you have a big list of elements and they don't have keys, that can really damage your page, because everything could be re-rendering every single time you type. That could cause a re-render. So I'd chuck console logs in. Maybe I'd honestly chuck a console log in just before your sort of return, or, you know, like before you have your return, so that way, and just say I re-rendered. And if you see I re-rendered spamming across your console log, that's most likely a reason, because you've got unnecessary renders occurring. I'll double check that. The second thing I would do is probably, I mean, I would need to look into Framer a little bit more, but there's probably some optimizations that they recommend and suggest. Cesar says this is a powerful tool and scary tool because it's another proof that once saying learn, our imagination is the only problem. What a great Apple site. Honestly, I don't know if to thank whoever created Framer. Yeah, it seems like really, really powerful. Honestly, I'm quite shocked that I didn't really use it before much, but you can see like this is the fun as well though, because you guys are getting a fresh sort of experience as to how I'm learning it. But let's have a look at variants because it's quite interesting. So we have, and I'm going to drop this over here because I'm sick and tired of being behind the screens. There we go. Cool. So we've got variants. So our open state will have an opacity of 1 and an X position of 0. And a closed state will be X minus 100%. Now think about it, minus 100%, it means it will fly off the screen, right? And the opacity 0 will be hidden, okay? So that's kind of cool. Then let's go ahead and have a piece of state, which will keep track of if that's open or not. So we'll go ahead, chuck that up there. Now the variance doesn't actually have to be inside of our component. because this is just some dummy sort of, this is just basic variables, just fine. Import use state. And then what we're going to say is we're going to say animate is open. So let's have the same effect. So animate is open. It'll be open or closed. So let's go ahead and get rid of our animate. And now you guys can see that, okay, so by default, it's false. If we change it to true. Okay, so transition to initial scale. Okay, so the initial is broken. There we go. So if it's true, it's there. If I change this to false, it's still there. Okay, so look. So, oh yeah, variance. There we go. My bad. So we need to pass in variance. William says, every coaching call makes me feel like I'm going back to my old projects and fixing things. Yeah, that's how, honestly, that's one thing that I would recommend to really do. Like, even because bear in mind, William, I get that as well. Like, even when we basically, I don't know if you definitely check out the drag and drop session that we did, but I suggested a feature improvement in there where you can basically drag and drop. So it had a bunch of like your skills. For example, it had like Redux. You would drag Redux into the box and then it would show Redux or your portfolio on Redux, which is a really nice way of demonstrating. I'm not sure if somebody jumped in. Okay, so Adam says one thing to keep in mind with Framer, Chromium-based browser, that Chrome will leave visual artifacts behind in some animations at this point. Yes, and also there's another optimization you can do. If you ever find that an animation is really killing your performance or whatever, for whatever reason, you shouldn't overuse this property, but there is one where you can basically, and you just Google it, but there's a CSS property where you basically allocate the GPU, the resource. So that way, so like, for example, if you, when I had this, when I built this website, I've shown you guys this website before, but I built this for a company. This sliding, you see this little sliding element? This was glitching when we built it for the first time. It was kind of like stuttering along, right? And we added the property to say use GPU or whatever it is. I'll find it in a sec. But basically what it does then is if your computer has a dedicated graphics card, or if it has, most computers now, Intel's have like quite powerful chips on board, even for graphics, you can actually play games on them, which is pretty crazy. But it would allocate the animation to the GPU, which is actually a much, and then you get this buttery smooth. And you guys aren't going to be seeing it as smooth probably through Zoom, but it is on my screen. It's like 60 frames. It's like perfectly smooth. So, but we'll find out what that one is in a sec. What's up, Gabriel? Good to see you.
Hey,
man.
how's it going? You saw
Hey,
me,
good
huh?
to see you, man. Yeah. I always see little sort of faces pop up here and there throughout the coaching calls. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Let's carry on. So we got the variance over here. And now if I go ahead and check, okay, there we go. So you see false and true is there. We change it to false. Okay, nice. So we have some kind of element of control now. So if we made this false initially, and then we had, in their case, they have a toggle. Okay. So in our case, we'll just have a button which says, let's say toggle, we can say, just have a little basic kind of, just say true for now. Okay, and then what we're going to do is when we click it, we'll say on click, set is open to the opposite of is open. So now if I click this, there you go, it disappears. Obviously, once it disappears, that's not very good, is it? Can't really see it. So we need to fix that. And then you have the items. And then in their case, they have this pop up, right? Now their toggle, I wonder how they've done it. They probably maybe done it two ways. You can either position absolute it or do it a few other ways, but let's have a look. But that one's quite nice, actually. Let's check out the sandbox. WebKit font smoothing. Avnish says, let's have a look. You know, let me find that for you guys. I don't think it's WebKit font smoothing. So let's see, it's GPU, CSS. CSS GPU animation, hardware accelerated GPU, CSS transform. Which ones? I'll definitely recognize it when it will change transform. I think it was this one. I'm pretty sure it's this one. It might have been that, but let's have a look. And honestly, it makes a huge difference, but you shouldn't like kind of overly use it as a rule because it's quite an expensive operation when you do it. It will change. No. Size. Transition. Okay. Oh. Yeah, so battery life and GPU. I'll find out what it is for you guys. I'll let you know. But it's just know that it's adding it to the GPU. Now I really want to find it. So let's just try and find it. Okay. Okay, so just a few, yeah, here you go. So 3D stuff, translate 3D, translate Z, all of that stuff uses GPU. Video, canvas, iframe use GPU. Animations, you use it most of the time, but will change is definitely the one it was then, because I recognize that. So if you add will change, for example, when I had that scrolling bar, if you ever find that it's kind of, you know, it's taking a bit of, it's kind of being a bit too stuttery, add will change transform to it and it will go ahead and optimize it. But it has like, you shouldn't. And I remember the developer who taught me that is a really like top front end developer. And he was like, only use it like where you have to use it, because there's a lot of side effects to it apparently. Because your browser's trying to optimize as much as it possibly can. And you are then kind of coming in saying, okay, on top of that, I want to go ahead and, you know, throw it in. Gwen says, can I use search will change? It's said to be used in last resort in case the performance problem. Yes, exactly. So try not to use it unless you absolutely have to. But this is good. Good website can I use? Okay, so now let's go ahead and check this out so you can see. They've gone a bit further with this. They've gone ahead and done the clip path. Now, clipping, by the way, is you see here we have a circle, right? It gives you this nice effect where it clips it, right? So in this case, to get this cool animation, all the circle's doing is growing a crazy amount, right? So this circle is just expanding, but it's adding a clip, and which gives you this nice effect. Because even when I started web dev, I was like, how the hell do they make these things, right? Like how does somebody code that? But basically it's just a circle that gets infinite, like as in bigger, bigger, bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it goes ahead and adds that in. So use cycle. Okay. Cool. I think what we'll do is for now, we'll move on to the next one. Let's go ahead and see what they've got. And then we'll come back to this one because we'll cover clipping afterwards. Gesture animation, while hover, while tap. This one's pretty cool because imagine like you have all your skills listed out, right? And again, it's very simple. This one, you can go ahead and just chuck this on. But let's go ahead and do variants. Let's get rid of this variance. Look at that, super quick. Now, I would recommend, now obviously I say this like quite, like be careful, obviously, like do it with caution, but don't throw frame of motion in everywhere. But say you have a website where you basically, you know that there's going to be a level of interactivity, you know that you want to have, like quite a few of these things in place. Now, imagine if I had like a bunch of these, right? And these were all of my skills, right? Immediately you can see that, okay, it kind of looks pretty cool, right? Like if I go ahead and give this a class name, and I give this one, let's just say example And let's create an example.css. Let's do example. And I go ahead and give this a margin bottom of 20 pixels.
Paying attention, but why is the count there again?
What was that? Why is the
count?
Oh yeah, I'll explain that in a sec. It's a very good question. Give me one sec. Example.css. There you go. Okay. So give it a little bit of spacing, and I'll just wanna, just for my OCD, I'll say padding 20 pixels. It's horrible. But anyway, 10 pixels. Okay. So the count is there. You don't need the count, but the count is basically there for, I want to show that, okay, if we go ahead and restart the, oh wow, why is it re-rendering the entire list? Oh, because they all have the same one. Yeah, but the count is basically there. If I go ahead and click here to restart the animation, in this case, we don't have an animation actually linked anymore. But remember before we had an animation, and let's just say it was, what was it? Animation scale. I think it was scale 1. It wasn't just scale. It was this one, animate. There we go. So look at when I click here to restart animation, right? So the reason why it's doing that is because remember in React, every sort of element has a key, right? Now we don't always put in the key, which we should do. We should always put the key in because it helps with performance optimization. But think of every element in what you should be doing is giving every single element a unique identifier, right? So in this case, if I gave this one, was it Alex? You asked the question, right? So say this was the Alex component, right? And this one, it's got Alex as an ID. Now, if I click to restart the animation, it's not going to change because the Alex component didn't change, right? So it doesn't have to re-render this component. So if I go ahead and it's only when I remount the entire app or the app starts again, okay, the Alex component is animated, but I don't need to re-render the Alex component, okay? So if I click this, it doesn't do anything. But if that count changes for any reason, right? So in this case, the count was here. It was purely for an example to basically go ahead and reset it. But every time I click this, it increments the count, which changes the key, which means it will repaint the component on, which allows us to have this nice little demo effect, right? And that's why you get that effect. And it's also good to know because, you know, like when you're sort of having a list and so forth, and imagine if you kept seeing messages kind of coming into your app and you're like, why is everything coming in a crazy fashion? But think of it this way. If every single, imagine this was a message component and the key was the message ID, right? And as the message came in, it would animate onto the screen. So kind of like a zoom, you know, like when you get a text message, it kind of like pops on and then kind of like draws out. But every single previous message wouldn't reanimate. So you just see the new messages kind of animate in because they would have new IDs, but the old messages wouldn't. But if you forget the keys, every single message in that list is going to then repaint, right? So you can see again, if you've used React Flip Move, they kind of, you'll notice the same thing happens if you don't give your elements an ID, right? But in fact, what I want everyone to now do, because this is going to be more beneficial for you in terms of more powerful, more like sort of you can use this a lot more in a controlled fashion. Don't use React Flip Move anymore for a quick fix. Use frame of motion and get it working, right? So even if you've used React Flip Move in a previous app or project or something, take this as an exercise to go change it and make it work with a Framer, because Framer will be a lot more powerful and forward friendly for you to use in the future. Whereas React Flip Move, they've kind of built it out. Can't really customize much. It just works. It works good if, you know, for like a quick messaging fix or something, but this will be a lot more slick. So in this case, let's go ahead and do, for now, we'll just do key count. Okay. So, and you see we added that hover effect in, right? So here, while hover scale changes to 1.1, and if we want to make this less subtle, you can say 1.9, and you see kind of like only goes a bit more smaller. And this is kind of nice, right? Imagine like you're scrolling through the page and you kind of see this kind of pop up, and then as you you can just hover over the element, kind of, it'll give you a really nice kind of look and feel to your application, right? And even the tap, you can kind of have this clickable aspect to it. Okay, so this is cool. And now we've got the keyframes. Honestly, so far, I think one of the most powerful things I've seen is the keyframe, because that has really simplified quite a lot. Okay, so the next one, drag. This is one I'm quite interested in, because this one, you can see, like, we've even got momentum to it as well. So a component can be made with the addition of the drag prop. Lock it to either axes by setting drag to X or Y. Okay, the component can be constrained to a specific range defined by providing a ref to another dominant. These constraints are elastic. Okay, so motion, div, drag constraints. So in this case, if we were going to make this box, let's go ahead and say it was drag and then give it a bunch of constraints. And let's get rid of we'll keep our animations there for a sec. Oh, wow. Okay, that's nice. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of while hover and while tap. So it animates on the screen. Oh, wow, that's really good. Oh, I see what Adam was saying, the artifacts on the screen. Okay, so I wonder if there's a fix for that somewhere. I mean, there should be a fix for that. But that's definitely something to bear in mind. But I guarantee a lot of people have come into that problem before. Okay, but that's really cool. Honestly, that wasn't a lot of effort at all to get that working. And you can see the top is -50. So if I go ahead and say -100 now, I wonder if it'll give me more room to throw my element. Okay, so let's do -1000. Okay, nice. Okay, and then obviously just throw it away. You might want to keep it constrained to the sort of, so that's pretty cool. Right, so now you can kind of have it as like now if you have sort of an interactive portfolio, I think after this lesson everyone should take the portfolio, or whatever portfolio you have. If you don't have one, there's one in the GitHub repo, and pretty much upgrade it with two things: with drag and drop with D&Ds to go back to that lesson and implement the D&D, and also implement Framer and have this kind of like, it's just really nice if you're a front-end developer. Like this is the kind of stuff that is like, it looks good, but obviously try and fix the artifacting right here. But that's going, because you see it doesn't happen on that one, so there is definitely a way to fix that. So motion values. Oh, nice. Okay, this is good. Can you imagine like a Tinder style app, right? So you know the Tinder clone, right? So imagine upgrading the Tinder clone with one of these, so you can be like, swipe left, no, swipe right, yes, right, and kind of so forth. That'd be kind of cool, right? And then what you could also do is you could set it so that as you swipe more to the right, the angle changes to like the sort of like a slant. Then it would look like a card is flying to the right, card is flying to the left as you go towards each side. So we're going to check that out in a sec. But for here, I wanted to do one more thing. I want to lock the axes. So how do I set the axes? By setting drag to X or Y. So let's go ahead and say drag equals X. Okay, so if you want to lock it, there you go. Right, so you can drag it like so. And if you want to lock it to Y, you can do the same thing there. So now it's locked to the Y axis. Nice. And if you don't leave that, you can pretty much drag it in all directions. So these are your constraints. Okay, cool. Makes a lot of sense. Has anyone got any questions, by the way, so far? Avnish says, could you give some example to use this drag? So check out the D&D lesson, because what we did is we had, imagine you have like Redux, like Next.js, all these different like kind of logos across your page. You drag it into a box and it will show your experience with that skill, right? So it gives you a very efficient use case but that lesson we go over the entire build. Aldo says, wonder if it has some collision detection and propel other elements. Oh, nice. Let me check. Let's have a look actually. Let's chuck in maybe the whole div here is, I guess, kind of, it's a movable element, but I wonder if maybe, Okay, so no, they're not collision. But I wonder if you can maybe make it collision. Sort of like collide between the two. Okay, so let's have a look. So we've got motion values. So in this case, you've got use transform. Okay, so you see they've got the different gradients. This is going to be -1. Oh, no. Okay, this is really good. Wow. You got dry. Okay, let's give this one a try. So motion div style background. Background is use transform. Okay, so in this case, we've got the div, which is going to be the outside div. And we're going to give this a style of background. This is going to have a hook. So our new example is going to have, let's clean this up a bit. Go ahead and say style is background. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and have this one. Now, if you haven't already figured out, this one is basically saying, let me go ahead and pull in use transform as a hook from framer, use motion value. Anytime you see use, it's a hook, like a custom hook. Now, use motion value is probably figuring out where it is on the screen, like on the x-axis. And then use transform, you pass in that value, and then you pass in, you see you've got 3 values. So the 0 value is going to be basically the initial sort of starting color. And then this will be, as you go to the left, it will change to this color. As you go to the right, it will change to this color. Right, that's what I'm kind of guessing in this case, and we can test it in a sec. And then we have a separate motion div inside, which has a drag constraint, and then the style of that is going to be linked to the motion value and then icon. Thanks. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this in. Now we don't have an icon. Let's go ahead and say, okay, no. Right, you guys can see behind it, it is changing. But right now we have, and this is because our okay, so the div inside, but now it would be no, not div, sorry. Let's make it motion div. Let's do this one as class name is going to be example. Let's just say inner. And this one is going to be example inner. App.css. Let's go ahead and take this. Okay, now my box is example. So here we've got example interact X background. I think in this case we could just make maybe, I wonder, we should be able to just make this background. Is it not gonna? Yeah, see that one works, but it then breaks what we had there. So I think maybe can we do? Give it 2 stars, no? No, you can't. Okay. So it's kind of close, but let's have a look at what their one is. They've got it actually moving along with it. So I want to attach it as well. So we've got motion div, style X, motion div, background color, background. Open this one. Let's have a look at their code. James, got to go make lunch, get ready for work. Oh yeah, James, good luck, dude. Let us know how that job goes. And yeah, all the best. Okay, so here, okay, so they have a lot more going on. So color, use transform, blah, blah. So they have an example container, then they have a box, they have an SVG. Much modeling, all that for now. And they have motion.path. Okay, so motion.path is for SVGs, I'm assuming, because this is SVG attributes. Then we've got the motion outside example container and example.container as width and height, which we have already. And then you have style background. Background we already have. And then you have this one. So in this case, we need to make it class name box. Okay. So background. Oh, I see. Okay. So they're just changing. Okay, so you see the back. Okay, this is why I'm getting confused. This is actually just a white box with the whole background is changing, which makes a lot of sense. So in this case, the background here shouldn't be this. We shouldn't have this. This should actually be, let's go ahead and say, okay, so that's not really gonna work. Oh, one sec, let me do, we don't need the app container here. I was gonna get rid of this. Okay, and then example.css, let's go ahead and do example inner. Let's do 100 view width. Okay, see that, guys? So now we get the whole background changing. So what I do is I drop this under here, otherwise it gets a bit confusing. Let's go into our example. And now we can see that motion inner. So the whole inner thing is changing, but now what we can do is we can make the box. So if we make this box, I think we don't make that a div as well, do we? We're going to make this a simple div. Let's just say class name, example, box. Sunny, I will leave. I'll get you. Thanks for saying. You're welcome, dude. We'll give the outer div 100 view. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm kind of getting a bit like kind of mixed here, but the outer div is this one. But you're saying here, right? But the outer div here, the surrounding should have 100, 100. Then this one has, wait one second, guys. Okay, this one has example box, do border radius of 20 pixels, the background color of white. Save. Okay, and then let's do a width and height of, let's just say 150 pixels. Okay, and then we got a little box. And then let's say we didn't have hello in there, just say it's a self-enclosed box. And then the center it. So display grid, align items center, and ooh. Is it justify content? Yeah, there we go. Nice. And there we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now they have a little cutout in there, but obviously this is like a pretty good starting point for some kind of app, right? Like you can pretty much go ahead and have this. And then what they've changed here, which is pretty cool now, so now it's starting to make sense, is they've made their, you see, where is it? Index.tsx, example.tsx here. So the motion path, okay? So they have different, you see like this one here, right? So there's a circle here. wonder how they've drawn this. So let's see, which one is for what? So color, 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 color. Use transform. Wow. Okay, so it's quite clever how it's all working. We have a linear gradient. In our one, we have a simple gradient. We just have a color that changes, but you can change it to be linear gradient. And then here you've got the motion path. But it's worth knowing that how they're doing this. Whenever you see these kind of attributes, fill, stroke width, stroke, it's talking SVG. And if you don't know what SVG is basically the best kind of icons you can get on web dev, because they're just like they're called vector icons, because they're basically just some instructions. They're just like a bunch of instructions which tell the sort of like your UI how to resize an element, which means they never get pixelated. So if you can use SVG icons, always use SVG over PNG. One, they're a lot smaller because it's just an instruction which gets put on the screen. But typically they're a little bit harder to deal with. So you have to kind of factor that in.
Hey, Sunny. Material icons, material icons, SVG icons.
SVG icons. What was that, sorry?
Are material icons SVG icons?
No, it depends. I don't actually know. We can check. There's one way of quickly checking. You can pretty much go ahead and let's see if we can inspect. And then you can see here SVG, right? So the quickest way of checking is go ahead and if you want to inspect, you see SVG, right? And you see there's a bunch of paths inside of it. So let's go ahead and remove like some of the paths, and you'll see that, look, it got rid of, you can start to isolate them. So one of the paths is purely for that line, right? So this is quite a nice way of seeing it, right? So literally one of these paths, so motion.path is for, which is actually a very good way of doing this. So let's have a look at this again. So let's go ahead and refresh. And I want to show you guys. So like together, it looks like a seamless, a pretty cool animation, right? If we go ahead and comment out like this line, this block, for example, and then we try it again, you see the circle has gone, right? So the circle was this one. So what we can actually do here is let's go ahead and nick this and put so they have a class name viewbox. Okay, so let's see if we can get this right on the first go. Drag box, example box, motion dev. Color is not defined. What color are they using? Because let's just use white for now. Okay, you see we have got an element over there. But what I want to do is example in a example box. We can fix this afterwards. But I just want to see something quickly. So we've got that kind of working. And then let's kind of move into the next, let's move into the next one, which is motion path. And then you see path length, tick path goes to use transform. Color is white.
Sunny?
Yep.
When you get the circle inside the box,
yep,
can you do a transparency for the color so we get the background theme as it's rolling across the screen?
It's a good question. So basically what they've done here, right?
It looks like they're using like different colors, like maybe a sharper.
Yeah. So what they're doing is they're matching the background, it looks like, to the color. You see that? So it gives an effect like as if it's transparent, but really what they're doing is this effect. So I'll show you. Let me demonstrate that quickly. It's a bit sneaky, really. Like, so you see like this, right? But what you're saying is can we get, so ideally what you're saying is kind of put this in there and then have this kind of like cut a hole in here so you can see through the back.
Correct.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
But really what I think they're doing is and it looks like that, right? It looks like they're kind of doing this, but they're kind of drawing a color on top of that line and it gives the effect that it kind of goes through it. Now, I think you can do it. I think you would use something like a mask to get it to work in that way. I'm not sure, but I think we need to have a look at that. Oh, see you later, Gwen. And also, yeah, anyone who wants to go ahead and watch the Gatsby workshop, join Gwen. And Gwen, just share a link if you can to that. That will help it run out. I'm going to watch that very soon. But let's firstly try this one. So let's go ahead and do color, use transform, change this to match color. And let's go ahead and create. I see what you're saying though, dude. That would be kind of cool actually to have it that way. Where's X input? Okay, let's make X input this. And you see what's happening here. It's kind of changing color, but now we need to change our colors to match theirs. Let's make this. You see how it's kind of somewhat matching the colors? Well, not really matching, but it would look somewhat close to it. And that's kind of what they're doing. Yeah.
I think you can use WebKit background clip or WebKit text color fill or something like that.
To kind of like cut a hole out, you mean?
Yeah.
Right. Firstly, let's fix this issue. I think there's a few ways we can do this. I mean, one hacky way is we can kind of make it a example. Let's get that box in there firstly. Let's put the example inner to be positioned at relative. And the example box could be positioned. Oops. Oh, we lost that. Let's do. Where's it gone? Where did it go? Okay. We've got the div. Oh wait, what am I doing? Oh my god, yes, this is a silly mistake. Silly mistake. This is just a div, yeah. So this can be this can have the SVG inside the div, yeah. And then everything would be centered, and it would. Oh, there we go. I was overcomplicating that quite a lot. But you see, look, first sort of way to look at this is we can pretty much, we don't need position relative then. You can see at this point, we get this nice effect, right? Now, guys, honestly, I do think definitely take even this, what we've done here, and upgrade the Tinder clone as a challenge, right? To get the kind of this UI, because that would be a really cool UI to show them, like some kind of, like swipe left, swipe right, sort of interaction. How it would kind of work in terms of functionality once you go past a certain point, I'm not sure, but we can figure that one out. But at this point, you can see we got swipe left, swipe right. Now, let's go ahead and see how we can clip. Okay, so motion path. It's also something to remember, it's an SVG, so I'm not sure entirely how we're going to make that one work. Let's put a tick path. Let's get the SVG in there first, then we'll deal with that. So motion path, tick path is this one. Okay, so we have this. Now, I am a little bit kind of confused on what. So the X makes sense. So we have tick path. Let's have a look. And this is simply a keyframe, I'm assuming, that goes from 0 to 1 based on 10 to 100. So you see, like, even when I first start moving in it, you see it doesn't change, right? Because it's got 10 to play with. If I change this to a 0, the minute I start doing it, you see that there's no room to play with it. As soon as you start moving to the right, it starts to draw the animation, right? So these are just keyframes. So in Framer, whenever you're seeing two arrays or an array of 2, an array of 3, an array of 4, it's going to be a keyframe of 2, keyframe of 3, keyframe of 4, and so forth, okay? So in this case, we've got the use transform here, 0 to 100. And if you want to make it like transparent, I'm guessing it will be, let's just see if 0.6. Oh no, okay, that's going to be completion. Okay, so that's the completion then. Okay, and then the draw path would be this thing here. And if you make it a lighter draw, okay, wow. Now, my question here would be, how the hell do you determine that draw path, right? Because I don't really work much with SVG. So let's have a look. Let's just do SVG generator method draw vector image. Now, if anyone has experience with SVG, I'd love to know how you come up with.
I think it starts at top 14 and then goes to bottom, or on the x-axis 14, on the l-axis then it finishes on 26, something like that.
Right, but then how, even with a circle, like a circle here, it's gone M0.
Oh yeah, circle is different. You need a pat, isn't it, or something? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure how to. I think definitely something to look into this to get the draw part. I think there's tools you can use, but this is where I'd find some kind of, SVG generator. I wouldn't come up with this stuff manually. It's like a box shadow. Honestly, I don't figure out the box shadow values. I literally go and find a box shadow generator, kind of tweak it until I like it, test it, pop it in, and move forward. And same with glass morphism. I did the same thing with that. So in this case, that's already looking really good, right? So that looks pretty good. Imagine you had like a questionnaire on your portfolio where you could be like, swipe, kind of like move through it, or some kind of contact me form. Do you want me to reply or by like email, or I don't know? It's pretty cool. Like especially as a front end developer, like having this kind of functionality on your site would look really clean. And yeah, that was pretty cool. Okay, so now let's kind of enhance this a little bit. I just want to kind of mess around with something. Let's have it so it animates with a transition. So let's go ahead and say animate scale 0.2. And now we even have this. So as soon as you come on the web page, it will kind of animate up. You can do this. So now you see we can kind of apply what we learned before in the same approach, right? Same with the keyframes. You can pretty much go ahead and do the same thing. Oh, wow. Okay, that's insane. Let's go ahead and do 3 seconds. So now that's pretty cool, right? For like some kind of like, imagine we were to get rid of the final 2 keyframes because it's kind of unnecessary. Let's go ahead and get rid of these final 2. And let's see how it works. So swiping around. Okay, and then say we want to go back to 1. And here we want to go ahead and say back to 20%. And then let's make it a little bit faster. Now, what I would honestly say, like, this is quite a cool sort of app. Now, imagine like your app when it first loads up, goes ahead and like comes up, and oops. Okay, that's a bit insane. Thank you, Anish. He says, great work, dude. Yes, it's really nice, honestly. Like, it's pretty cool. Like imagine like as an app, when you come onto it, it would look really good. And you can kind of mess around with it. And that immediately makes your app just stand out, right? Like it just looks really kind of like, whoa. Like imagine you come onto a website and you just see this, you're like, oh my God, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, and then it kind of like some text kind of floats up from the bottom saying drag me left or right or something like that. But you're definitely going to impress them a hell of a lot if you have something like this on your account. Yes, Assad, great example. Now working on a welcome model, like when the user signs up for the first time, he'll show a cool welcome model. Exactly. That would be really cool. Imagine that when they log in, something pops up. I definitely think for modals, this would be really cool because your modal itself could have kind of a sleek scale transition, but there could be an element inside of it which kind of does this little spin around, you know, which is kind of like a little user kind of interaction or something like that. Now, I did want to mention, I'm just trying to find who done it. Someone reached out to me on Instagram. It was motion graphics in React Remotion. Now, we will come back to Framer in a sec, but has anyone seen this? Remotion React. You can literally write videos in React, which is really interesting, right? So the videos are actually in React. So programmatic videos. Now, I don't know if it sounds gimmicky or if it's actually quite useful, but I'm definitely going to look into it. But you can pretty much go ahead and have a full video. And you see, guys, look, you can actually create a video inside of React, which is kind of cool because sometimes, let's say you're not great at doing video editing, right? But you know exactly how to get it. Now think of it, if you get really good at Framer and you get really good and you figure out how to use Remotion, now you can actually create a really good looking video to demonstrate on your app. And imagine what you could then do is have, when you kind of log into the app, a little kind of snippet of a tutorial or something that auto plays saying, this is how you use my app. And it'll be a little video of your application running, right? So it's kind of a cool use case out of that. When I saw it, I did think of it. I was like, okay, that's actually a pretty cool way to show a tutorial inside your app. Okay, so we've got this one, gesture animation. So again, you can check on this if you wanted to. Let's just throw that in as well. While tap. While hover 1.1, while tap would be 1.5. Okay, maybe figure that one's breaking something. Okay, now let's see, viewport scroll. Oh, okay, that's actually pretty cool. That's now imagine about like progress, right? Imagine you're creating a blog application or something. Let's kind of implement that into our app now. So we have some kind of scroll, which kind of works based on, so scroll Y. Oh, wow, that's easy. Scroll Y progress. Okay, so let's do it. So at the top of our app, scroll Y progress and use viewport scroll. And what I would recommend is that once you kind of get this right, you kind of lock your height of your app, and then you hide the scroll bars, right? So that way you wouldn't see those nasty looking scroll bars kind of coming in and out. Now at this point, let's go ahead and have a similar. I don't know. I honestly don't know how they figure out this D value, but I'm curious. But now if we're going to go ahead and say, let me just throw in some kind of, there you go. Try this out. Oops. I'm wondering now if we can do something like, I just want to get some height on it. So, well, Okay, where is my, oh, so it has to be inside of the SVG. Just choose stroke, fill, none, stroke, white. Let's just do stroke, red. Yeah, interesting. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go. Heartland. Have I done that? I did do that. Okay. In fact, why I don't want to kind of pollute this one because this is actually a really nice example. Let's do it in a separate component. Let's do it like in. This is a really nice little snippet. So let's stay in this one inside of our app. Let's imagine we had. There you go. Like loads of hellos. Okay. Oh yeah, Avnish. I've seen that one. So when you do github1s.com and it shows like a sort of VS Code style repo. I think it's read only, but it's a nice way of
Yeah, it's
navigating.
read only, Sunny. It's only read only.
Yeah, it's read only, which is it's a pretty cool way of looking through.
It's read only.
Yeah. So at this point we have this. Okay. So I want to basically get that inside the app as we scroll down, right? So let's go ahead and try and implement this. Let's say you scroll Y progress, motion path. Now, I don't think you can just chuck it out like that. I think you'd have to maybe wrap it. I think let's have a look at the sandbox. And also just to know, okay, so when you're looking at examples like this, it can be a little bit deceiving, right? Because it might be like, oh, wait a sec, that's all I need to do and it's not working. But when you open the sandbox, it's like, oh, wow, okay, they didn't put that in the tutorial, right? It's definitely something to bear in mind. Don't get thrown off by that. But a few things to notice here is, look, you've got the SVG wrapping it, okay? Yes, you can give it a position fixed as well. But in the first thing, let's go ahead and do is wrap it in SVG. Motion path. Let's go ahead and chuck this out of SVG. And then class name, progress view box. Let's give it a little view box. Oops. There you go. And then I'm going to give this a class name of, let's just say app.progress. Oops, progress. There you go. And let's open up app.css. Let's throw it underneath. We don't no longer have this. Let's say app progress dot, and then let's say position fixed. Let's just try and do a quick one. Say top 0. Okay. Now that's definitely not ideal, but we're getting there. And then let's go ahead and inside of, you see fill none, stroke with 5, stroke dash array, blah, blah, blah. And then style this. So the tick is, so the top one is for the circle, the bottom one is for the tick, right? So for the top one, we just want to do the circle to begin with. So motion path. But to be honest, I don't really like how they've done that in the documentation because it's very misleading when you've got this and the actual example has quite a lot to it. And then the style here, path length. Reverse direction. Path length is not defined. Path length equals use spring. What the heck is that? Y range, scroll Y progress. And this is again keyframes. So we've got keyframes here, and you've got path length. But I wonder if we can pretty much just go ahead and do it this way. We've got path length, to scroll Y progress. Okay. Okay, so need to use transform and use spring. Okay, it's interesting. So at this point, it could be down, it could be here, it could be a few different places, position fixed, position absolute. Progress. Oh, white. Let's just do red. Now, I want to see if it's even rendering on the screen. So let's go into our div, our app progress. Okay. So it could be underneath. Let's do a Z index of like 100. No. SVG, path fill, none. Stroke dash array, rotate. App progress motion path. I wonder if they've got a progress icon. All right, so progress icon, and then progress icon has position fixed top. Oh no, wait a sec. No, that's fine. Oh, it's okay. Width and height. Maybe that's probably our reason. So hopefully I'm. No, really hoping it would be. App progress. All right, we're almost there. I can fill it. Probably something really small now. So we've got progress icon and so let's see, we've got SVG class name app progress icon, position fixed. Then they've got a, okay, so media queries we don't really care about for now. Position fixed, word, usable port, stroke dash array. Everything here is the exact same. So maybe the display. What do you mean? Maybe the display. Oh, it could be, you mean this. Let's just get rid of this for a sec. Okay. Oh. So firstly, you see where it has that use spring. That's giving you the really nice momentum stopping. You see when I slow down, it kind of has this nice springiness. So who said that, by the way?
Actually, this is Mohammed. Yes, I've seen the displays in block, the type of it in the example you were showing, the other web page. I've seen something displaying in block somewhere.
Display block, you said?
Yes, display block somewhere. Unless if I look in the wrong class. Oh, okay, actually display displays. Okay, maybe I look in the wrong class.
So
in block, actually. Yes, okay, that's the word class. Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be the
That's
one. But it was a good spot though, because it was, I don't think, yeah, you're right. If we were going to get rid of, just trying to think. So we don't actually need this one to be of type grid anymore because the child inside of example is actually using up 100 by 100. So we can get rid of this one actually to begin with. But good spot. I mean, nevertheless, that's actually a quite nice little fix there. And then if we go ahead and say, let's just make this like visible for now, say red. That's pretty clean to be honest. And even if we go and say right instead, so it's on the right. Again, like little things like that. Like once we figured it out in the end, but the main thing is as you're moving through your portfolio, it's just more dynamic UI, right? It's gonna give you a bit of kind of like a show off element to your portfolio which is gonna look pretty cool. Imagine you've got elements you can play with, you've got drag and drop, you've got this kind of thing in your UI. Like it will really kind of make you stand out from the rest. And you can say like, oh, by the way, I love frame of motion, you know, like, and it's kind of a subtle flex, like when you're applying for a job. So it's a nice way of doing it. But let's go ahead and actually apply the tick, right? So the tick is a pretty cool little sort of finisher to it. Now, I like how they've done their tick here because you can see they've got a use effect, which is the dependency is a Y range. And again, if you're sort of lost at any point where I'm talking about a use effect, make sure you look at the React Basics use effect tutorial, because once you watch that, you'll know what the dependency is. But here you've got the Y range, and then we're basically saying Y range on change set is complete to the value if it's greater than 1, because most likely anything below 1 is when we haven't touched the bottom of the page. So it's not even when we touch the bottom of the page. So look, so let's go ahead and implement this. So let's go ahead and say, get rid of this. We're going to create a is complete, and then we're going to have a use effect, which is going to go ahead and let's chuck it underneath this. You see this? And what I'll do is I'll actually make this a little bit easier to read for you guys. There we go. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to console log complete. Right, so I'm going to console log is complete, is complete, is complete. And then I'm going to inspect it. So you can see that false, 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 true. False, 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 true. And I just want to mention that like this is actually a nice way of catching it. And obviously use transform as a frame of motion sort of technique, but there has been many like sort of like scenarios where I've had to figure out when the user's at the bottom of the page, right? So using a use effect, tying it in, making the sort of scroll position a dependency, and then setting your like is complete or is at end of page variable using the use effect is a very clean way of doing it. Because you'll see other examples where it's like window on scroll element or something like that. But this is a nice way of doing it. Okay, that's pretty cool. So now you can see, look, when it will change based on that value. Now we have some kind of toggle, right? So at this point, you can either do two things. You can either make it just render in a sort of icon, which is a quick fix, or you can have an SVG. And let's kind of mess around with this SVG and see how they do it. SVG, let's chuck it inside of our SVG. And another hint here, when we've done, okay, so you see, there's is red. If we, no, this is white, if we make it red. Man, that's so clean. Wow. Okay, so fill none, stroke word, the D, the mysterious D value, which we're going to figure out how to sort of do that soon. The initial is false, so it's not initially there, stroke, dash array, and then the animate. The animate is saying, okay, pattern, if it's complete, then basically go ahead and animate it to 1, otherwise animate it to 0. And then I guess the duration can also be added in. And then you could probably pass in a duration, transition duration property. So if we were going to go ahead and say 2, then I guess it might be super slow. Oh, there we go. Nice. So you can even slow it down, right? So in this case, say we want to make it super slow for some reason. Very nice. Right? And think about it, what you could do, right? Let's be realistic about this for a sec. Let's say like you've got a medium style website, right? So some kind of medium style, and 2 is even very long. Let's do 1.5. Right. And then obviously This isn't ideal. This was more for demonstration of, having a cool little spinning box. But like say when this ticks, right, you could basically have it so that you could actually have another use effect, which is dependent on is complete. Okay, so if you want to do this very quickly, you could make it so that the use effect will trigger off a function which says if the dependency of is complete changes, right? So you can say if it is complete, then you can say like mark as read in the DB, right? Now think about what that would mean for your user, right? Let's say you're on medium.com, you scroll down, the user interface is kind of showing you how much you've gone through. And then when you finally finish it, it kind of does some little cool animation, like, and you can really like deck these out, honestly, to the point where if we reach the end, it will just kind of, like little things would kind of fly around, or it would spin around and jump up and down or something. You can do whatever you want with it, really. But that would be kind of cool. And then it would basically update the user's profile to say, okay, they have read this article, right? Which would then have a read, which means that then it could go into their read columns, which means that you would no longer show them that article, right? So again, functional benefits here too, right? So you see how UI would kick in right now. If you had an article, your user can know exactly as they're reading it, okay, I'm pretty near the end of the article now, which means they'll probably most likely stick to the end, right? Otherwise, if you've got a huge web page, especially for really long articles and things like that, something like this as a front end developer is super crucial to your user's experience, right? Stuff like this is just cool, right? It's just a nice sort of way to deck your app out, and it makes like apps like Tinder have their sort of, put it this way, right? If an app like Tinder didn't have its sort of swipe left, swipe right UI, do you think it would be worth millions or even billions today, right? Like the reason why it works so well is because the UI was so on point, right? Like they had such a clean UI to the point where you literally swipe right if you like someone, you swipe left if you don't, right? And that's the power of UI, right? Whereas you could literally have the same thing, but two buttons, I like, I don't like. And it wouldn't do as well as swipe left, swipe right, right? The whole swiping became a thing, right? So always trying to think ahead of the curve in terms of like, okay, this gives us somewhat of functionality to be able to do it. And then you can go ahead and implement on top of this to get the functionality that you need. How you would do it after this would have to sort of, somewhat break it down as to like, if it goes past a certain X value, another animation maybe triggers off. So it kind of like this card eventually flies off or something. But that's how you figure it out slowly. But you've got exit animations. Okay. Animate print again, these are exit where they can be defined as set of values, blah, blah, blah. Exit opacity 1. Okay, so let's double check this one. What is exit? Let's go ahead and say example as an exit opacity. Initial animate key source. Exit before enter. Animate presence. I wonder if you can have it as when it comes into view. So let's have a look. Parallax effects. Oh, this is quite cool actually. So look at this. So you see websites, you've probably seen a lot of websites where they have this kind of like quirkiness to it. Right? Like again, this is kind of overkill in my opinion, but if you do this right, it can look really clean. But this is like in the beginning, like your head's kind of like, whoa, what the hell's going on? But then eventually, like at this point, it's quite nice, right? Like imagine you had like a nice little breakout. Now, what's cool about this is imagine you had your like profile in this fashion, right? So it kind of looked a bit more like this. Why is this messed up now? Let's go ahead and do this. But this is quite cool because again, like I'm always trying to figure out a way that you can show more of your human side in sort of like a build. But oh, okay, so you see it's kind of bugging out now. Let's try and refresh again. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So in this case, now imagine you had all of the information about you, right? But you had pictures of you, friends, family, like, you know, like kind of like a person behind the sort of tech, right? Now your portfolio is not just a tech dude or girl who's kind of, you know, a coder that kind of just like, I've made a portfolio because that's what I've been told that gets me the job, right? Now you have a human behind the portfolio, if that makes sense, right? So this is kind of like stuff which for me would be extremely powerful. If I saw like frame of motion, sort of parallax effects, but then as I'm scrolling down, I'm sort of seeing a story, right? Like I'm kind of seeing that like this person has a life, like wow, you know, like this person has, like the story behind could be like achievements of, let's say, I don't know, like I used to compete in like taekwondo and kickboxing. If I had like a picture of me competing and then me like coding and then me with family or something, do you see what I mean? Like it's kind of, it's a really nice way, because remember, you're not just getting the sort of, you're not just trying to show them that you can code, you're trying to show them that you are a good fit in the company. Like you will pass the culture fit. What he says, what if you have a boring life? Then it's all about deception. No, then you can pretty much remember anything boring can become like snazzy, right? Like it really doesn't have to be like, you know, you don't have to be like skydiving in these pictures. It can just be something very simple, you know, like it could just be a picture of you. It could just be a picture of some work. But the point is, it's where you have a chance to express yourself and kind of make your UI like three-dimensional. Remember, you shouldn't be, your goal is to not make them sit there scrolling for ages, right? You're trying to cleverly fit in quite a lot, right? Without them having to do much, but you're trying to make it not overwhelming. Parallax effects like this are really good at doing it, because it's very clear to distinguish that, okay, some text could go here, right? But behind it, you've got like a very subtle, oh, they also like travel, I guess, right? Or something, you know, like it could be something behind it. Aldo says, so we can do it in the about me section. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. Yeah, so imagine you had all the sort of tech stuff, you know, like the sort of all this, and then you had about me, right? So imagine you just entered the about me section, and then you had a parallax, right? Really good way of showing off a bunch of skills and showing off a lot about yourself, right? So what I would recommend is this has kind of presented a nice little challenge for you guys. So in the Papa GitHub repo, you have a nice sort of starter template, right? Now there are problems in that repo, and this is why me and Jay have been talking about it. I will eventually extend it. I will kind of, you know, implement these things, but I kind of want to give you guys a chance to do it yourselves, so that way we can kind of come together and see who brings out what, because it's nice to get like, you know, a mixture of inspiration. For example, Adam used this, and then look at where it is today. Like this is kind of pulled in. Luca talked about recoil once, and look at that. We use recoil and it's kind of supercharged some apps. So I want to take the same approach with the portfolio. So guys, implement Framer in your portfolios, right? As well as drag and drop. So if you haven't done the D&D coaching call, implement the D&D coaching call, sort of what we did in that coaching call, and then upgrade it with Framer, which is going to be a bit tricky. It's going to be a bit like sort of, you know, challenging. And then do the examples of what we said today. So, you know, like we had a bunch of stuff here. Like we even had like this kind of example here. What's really cool here is that you can have like swipe left to find out about me, swipe right to find out about something else. And then you can actually make this section here kind of opacity change if you do this and swipe left. And I don't know, you can kind of have some cool stuff happen like that. But think outside the box, kind of like, and I'd love to see your kind of like approach to this, but about me section for Parallax would be insane. Like that's my sort of take on it. And eventually what I'll be doing is I'll be upgrading that portfolio. And what I'll do is I'll keep the current portfolio, and then I'll do a portfolio 2.0. And then that way you can kind of, you know, show the difference, right? And then what would be really kind of funny to show that you have a witty side is kind of have a portfolio and say, only joking, this is click this to see my actual portfolio, and then it goes into portfolio 2.0, and then it's like, whoa, right? To show that you have a witty side. Because honestly, trust me, humor goes a long way when you're at an interview. If you can break the sort of seriousness of the situation, but if you like, you're gonna have to be confident about it, right? So now we've got let's have a look. Frame of motion. Examples. We went through the majority of them, X animations, and then we have, okay, accordion is when we have the sort of, like frequently asked questions and that sort of stuff, those little accordion pop-ups. So let's wait until this kind of comes up. So this kind of thing, right? This is, again, very clever use of space, right? Now, if you were just going to have this in that about me section, it would take up like a whole page. If you do it in an accordion fashion, right, you can basically be like, where I live, I don't know, like you can have anything, like my education, click it, boom, education comes up. You want to minimize the footprint of your page, so that way you're not scrolling forever, but cleverly sort of make use of the space. This is a perfect example of cleverly using your space and implementing some kind of animation behind it, right? Not a huge fan of the scale here. I think you maybe reduce the scale element, but still it looks pretty good, right? Right, let's see. All right, any questions, by the way, on that before I kind of carry on?
What is the difference between GSAP and frame of motion?
That I am not 100% actually familiar with, because I don't actually use GSAP much. But Adam, if he's here, Adam, have you got any input on GSAP? Because Adam's used both GSAP and Framer. GSAP is quite popular though. I have seen people use it. I have seen people use Framer. But to be honest, I would have to look into it a bit more to give you a solid answer on it. But let's have a look together though. GSAP, Green Talk, HTML5. Anyone else, by the way, feel free to jump in and sort of throw your 10 cents on it. But GSAP, from what I've heard, is like like it pretty much doesn't say just fast. Like it's really fast, kind of small. Framer, again, I don't know. I need to have a check because I haven't actually bundled anything with Framer, but I've heard it has weight to it. But again, it could be really streamlined now. But I recommend trying both. But remember, like Framer today, my go today, and one thing I like about kind of coming in fresh on these coaching courses is that you guys get to see the sort of route that I took from a fresh stance, basically picking up Framer, like to a degree where we can pretty much use it, right? Like, and then it just takes practice, okay? But the approach we took today to learn Framer, you can pretty much take the exact same approach to learn GSAP, right? Go ahead, look at documentation. If you really get stuck, honestly, watch YouTube videos and kind of apply it, go back to the documentation, mess around with it. I would recommend starting with Framer now because they've got Code Sandbox. You can pretty much mess around with it yourself. Also, this is a very nice example of the notifications. That's super clean. And you can see like Framer, in my opinion, after messing around with it just for one time, is definitely something I think that would benefit you by knowing it in the long run. Because like even this sort of stuff, like you're going to be using like this all the time. Even if you have like your app and you have real-time notifications or something, it's going to come in handy with that stuff. Let's have a look. Let's go back to image slideshow, App Store style card expansion. Okay, this is the one I actually want to check. So I saw a screenshot in the beginning of the call, something like this right now. This is kind of cool as well, because again, right, this is another like clever use of space on your portfolio. You could have my projects or something like that, right? You can have pretty much like this. Imagine we had the header and this changes to be like today, let's just say I don't know, check out some of my projects, right? Check out some of my projects. You have a picture of you, boom. And then they can click into it. That's clean, right? That's really clean. And then look how like, you can even go ahead and you even got this like nice little swipe down sort of functionality behind it, right? And again, like what's nice about this is unbelievably. Let's go ahead and open this up in a fresh. I wonder if it'll open up the entire app. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So the only thing I don't like here is the performance. There's a little bit of lag. So probably check out if there's a smoother way to implement that. But overall, very nice, like UI, right? Again, if you're trying to land a job as a React developer and you can show that you can pull off UI like this and all sorts of other stuff, like you're kind of like skipping the queue a bit, right? In terms of kind of standing out. Because imagine, right? How many people are going to submit their CV? It'll be interesting to try on mobile. Actually, you can check it here, by the way. You can go ahead and do this. You see this? This is on mobile. So there you go. It has a similar effect. And again, you can just swipe down. So really, really, it looks quite cool on mobile. I actually recommend this one as well. This is pretty cool. But again, yeah, like I said, like if you go into it, and trust me, I've seen, I was on the other end of the hiring process. So I've done both. I've kind of been interviewing and had tons of rejection. Don't worry, guys, I've been there. Like I got rejected from job after job after job after job, like again and again. And then eventually I kind of figured out what they're looking for and kind of like the approach that you should take. And my biggest suggestions are like, it's two things, right? One, your soft skills and your approach to it. Like you have to radiate a level of confidence, which will only come through like one, and this is the honest truth, like that sort of, let me go ahead and stop sharing and I've just kind of for a sec. Yeah, but that, so to land that job, in my opinion, the two biggest things were confidence, and it's not confidence in terms of like, okay, if you give me some like task, I can do it. It's confidence that I'm willing to adapt and overcome a problem that comes my way, right? And I'm pretty confident in doing that, right? Like in this coaching call, would you say that when I said we're going to learn Framer today, were you confident that I was going to do it, or were you confident that I was going to sort of maybe fail? So just raise your hand if you had a level of confidence that I might have done it. Okay, nice. Thank you. Joe's like, yes. Okay. So the point is that
question? I did not hear that.
What's that?
What was the question? I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, as in like when I came onto the call today and I said we're going to touch on Framer, were you confident or not confident that I was going to accomplish that?
Always confident.
So the thing is, obviously, it's a little bit biased in this one because we have the clones and stuff like that. But imagine like I came into the room fresh, right? And I said like, okay, you know what, guys, we're going to go ahead and build Framer. I've never used it before. But like I'm pretty sure we can do it. And the thing is, right, there was no sort of element of like coming and saying, yeah, I've used GSAP, I've used this other stuff before. Like the best thing to do sometimes is come in, be honest, and say, yeah, I've never used it. I can never even touched it, right? But like I'm pretty sure like we can figure this one out, right? You see how like there's a big difference. But if I was there coming in saying, yeah, I've used like a bunch of other animation libraries. Yeah, I have. I promise you, I definitely have. And then I was stuck. Now I've kind of overshot and I'm under delivering, right? And immediately it's like, oh, I can see straight through this guy, like, you know, like, well, this girl, like, it's not really like, why weren't they just honest about it? Whereas if you come and say, you know, like, okay, that's cool, let's figure this one out. And then you just sort of show your problem. Even if you get stuck at that point, you're now not giving a bad sort of look on yourself, because you're being honest about it. You're just showing them that, okay, he's not quit yet, right? Like he's still moving forward, and that's good, right? That's a very important trait when you're sort of trying to land that gig, right? So yeah, go for it.
That's what I think. I use the same skills when I was trying to get out some of my colleagues and trying teaching them CSS and JavaScript. I told them that I'm not the best, but let's do it together so that at the end of the day, I know how to code, you know how to code. We can do things together. So that's the way I started the thing, and I was able to gather most of them because I told them I'm not the best. I'm learning, so we are learning together. That's the same trick I use, and I think it was going well with them.
Honestly, that's it. That's honestly a big golden point to it, because guys, like you will get stuck, right? There's no like ifs or buts. Like it's gonna happen. You're gonna get stuck. You're gonna hit like points where you're like, I really don't know how to overcome this problem right now. But like every developer gets there, right? I've worked with the most senior guys who like I still look at those devs as like, wow, like I don't know how they do half the stuff they do, but they get stuck, right? They just get stuck at a different level, right? And in a couple of years, someone will look at like me in that level, right? Whereas before it wasn't. Right? You see, and it kind of goes back and forth and kind of goes into that, right? And same with you, like you'll look at yourself like in a couple of years, and before you know it, you're at that level where you were looking at someone else that was senior before, and those things. So I would recommend that, again, the first thing is confidence, right? Confidence is going to be key to you landing that position. And the second thing is standing out, because remember, every single person, and I remember would get someone in, they'd submit a resume. And to me, if I see a resume, a paper resume or PDF, I straight away look for something which stands out on that resume, right? And if nothing stands out, all of this, and it's kind of harsh, but I just think lazy in my head. That's the first thing I think in my head. I'm like lazy, like just lazy. And I know it's harsh, but it's like the truth is that everyone can make a resume, right? It doesn't take the amount of effort. Your resume doesn't show me your personality. Your resume doesn't show me if you're going to fit in the team. Your resume doesn't show me if you're a human, right? Now a bot can write a resume, right? So I literally spoke about Conversion AI, this sort of copywriting bot, AI sort of engine earlier, and they write it so realistic now. Like anybody, you can even get your resume written for you, right? And obviously you can get website built for you, but it's a little bit different because you have to talk about it. But the point is that you need to kind of showcase all of those things, your skill, your confidence, your personality in a really nice sort of way, doing it through like, and as a front-end developer, doing it through animations is golden, right? It's going to help you out a lot, which is why Framer is a really nice way to do it, right? Like Framer is a cool way. And like we said now, small UI elements, like even this one, like again, UI patterns, like the sort of, the app sort of, I don't know what these are actually called, the app kind of cards, I guess. They're kind of like very popular sort of UI elements. And also like the one that we did here. Oh, you guys can't actually see my screen. Let me go ahead and share it again. This one here. Yeah. You guys can see the correct screen, right? You can see you can see this, right? Okay, yeah. So now if we so small UI elements like this, right? Just understanding that those have a huge amount of, because look, the way it happens is you have junior devs, right, who come in, they pretty much like their main focus is learning the skills, right? They're just learning the web dev essentials sort of skills, their React skills, what a hook is, blah blah blah. Then you kind of go up to a point where, okay, that stuff's in, I know it. I'm kind of like, never say I know it. It's always can be improved, but like that's not the main focus anymore, right? You kind of know how to use a use effect. You kind of know how to use state and props and when to use it. The next thing is, okay, I'm trying to overcome a problem now. And the users are kind of, they're struggling to use a website. Like, okay, like now your understanding of UI and user experience comes into play as to like, okay, maybe like a little indicator like this is going to help our users out, right? Like having that sort of sharp eye for those little details and sort of the sharp things about even like a color gradient, right? Like remember before we had the color gradient, it was very sort of flat, and like this is extremely subtle, this gradient, right? But it makes all the difference when it comes to like a UI. Now, if you're kind of wondering, like I have no idea where to begin with any of that stuff, right? I've said it before in other ones, but look at Dribble, right? Dribble.com is a really good way to go ahead and get inspiration about what is trending in the front end dev world. So like what is sort of looking pretty good and things like that. Let's say we want a portfolio. I go ahead and I type in portfolio, and you can see like you get all of these sort of ones, right? And again, look how good that is, right? If you saw this guy's portfolio, would you think that he's a pretty decent sort of like some kind of UI designer or something, right? You would look at it and be like, wow, that's just like that has personality all over it, right? Like it's literally spilling his personality on the page with colors and all sorts of stuff, right? And whereas if you look at that compared to like a basic resume, now imagine you upgraded that with Framer, and as you're scrolling through it, things are kind of popping out, silky smooth, and then you're demonstrating all of your skills in one. Immediately, that company will definitely put a call towards you, right? Somebody's going to call you at that point, and you're going to get a call Now, it doesn't matter if you pass or fail the interview. Like I said, that confidence, the only way you're going to build that confidence is if you honestly face rejection, right? You need to face rejection. Otherwise, if you haven't failed enough in interviews, then my honest approach is push harder, right? It's better to fail at 20 interviews than to not have 20 booked at all, right? Like honestly, keep booking them, like get them calls, secure a phone call, secure a first place interview, get through to the second round, and honestly share your experience with the community, because I guarantee like that feeling that you're having, who, who's that? I'm watching with the camera off. Yeah, but make sure like that experience that you're having, you're definitely not alone with it. Okay, so like it can definitely be frustrating when you're sort of doing the job application. Now put your hand up if you're sort of in that job application process right now, or you're in that sort of phase. So okay, so we have a few people. So Joe's put his hand up. Yeah, and it gets painful, right? It gets really like rejection on interviews is the worst kind of like, because you start to doubt everything. You start to doubt like shit, like I'm never going to get a job. I'm not good enough as a developer and all this other stuff. And this was my original goal with like a community as opposed to a course, that you understand that everyone goes through that, right? So it's like every single person goes through that same hurdle. As soon as you get the first job, trust me, it just gets easier. Like once you get that first gig, it will get your life will just get like easier after that in terms of jobs. And then the more jobs you get, the more sort of freelance gigs you get, the easier and easier it gets, because you have to be honest, it's also an element of like a good selection in terms of React is here to stay. Like you're pretty much secure for a while now if you manage to get push in this direction. So a few takeaways from this kind of portfolio, guys, is you can see like it doesn't have a standard box layout. Right. So one thing I want to definitely spot out here is it doesn't have the traditional, everything is in a perfect row, because a perfect row is easy, right? Like getting a perfect row or perfect column is easy, right? You pretty much go ahead and do display flex, like flex direction, column or row, and the job's done. If you have some kind of, like some kind of like kind of where everything's not in line like this, right? But it kind of like might move and cross over each other, or something will happen. It just shows an element of skill above it, right? And even here, clients get exceptional work from me, right? This is a much better way of saying my portfolio or my projects, right? Saying that like clients get exceptional work from me. Even in this case, what you could even do is kind of paraphrase that with the clones, right? So you could be like, I don't know, like companies would love to have apps like these or something like that, right? And then you can pretty much list out a bunch of clones, right? And in the sort of card fashion, so these could all be cards. When you click it, boom, you get the card from Frame of Motion pop up, right? And again, work for all of this brand and client, maybe no recent projects, you could do that. But again, the point is you just want it to be a lot more, less kind of formal, a bit more sort of personality pops through it. Okay, so let me go ahead and just talk a bit about the Success Coach program. So me and Jay have been working quite hard on the Success Coach like sort of program and what we're going to try and do with it. We have got a few people who we definitely have put like, you definitely know who you are. Like if it's pretty much everyone who's been like, really going at the sort of, always interacting and things like that. And if you don't get contacted, don't take it to heart. Literally just go ahead and apply, because I think there's about 250 people in the community right now. So we're just trying to work our way through it. So just feel free to apply and we can pretty much move forward with it. But the goal, guys, again, is, it's going to be for a lot of things like sort of working in a Scrum fashion, getting you guys to get used to things like code reviews, getting you guys used to, because my goal, again, like I said, is not just to fit like to work on course like modules and you guys just work your way through modules. Otherwise, there are a million Udemy courses out there which can do it, right? I am going to drop content on the course. Don't worry about that. But I'm saying the point is that it's not the course content alone will not get you the job. Right? You having that soft skill, you having that sort of the actual usable sort of skills and sort of the knowledge behind that is what's going to get you that job. And if I was to say, right, okay, like this week, imagine we had a group of success coaches this week. Okay, William is going to go ahead and lead the team of success coaches, and your mission this week is to organize a papathon or something like that, right? Papathon, and like, guys, you need to have a scrum. Like, it's going to be a week sprint, right? Your team is like 5 success coaches, and you guys have to like organize it between yourselves, the GitHub setups and all that sort of submission stuff. Everything has to be done. Like, that is pretty like, now when you go to your job, you can pretty much say, yeah, I've organized like a hackathon, like we pretty much had this, like we managed a team of, because now think about what you're saying, you're like, I've managed a team, like, you know, like you're now going into a job from 0 experience to now saying, I've managed a team, I have this experience, I have these clones behind me, I know all of this stuff about React and blah, 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 I have this dope portfolio. Like, it starts to become a very powerful combination, right? Ismatula says that would be very powerful, Sunny. Yeah, that's exactly why we're kind of like pushing for it. Right, so Avnish says, if you want to make responsive design, what should we use like media queries? Okay, so responsive design, some honest approach with this is put your time towards Flexbox first, because responsiveness can be solved, a lot of headache can be solved with Flexbox, and then kind of get it down to a point where your window, like, get used to using Flexbox, get used to using things like max width when it makes sense. Now, when I say it makes sense is you should always support, like, there's different design paradigms. There's mobile first, which means you build from the mobile up, right? And then you kind of scale up to desktop. And then what I would say is your limit on a desktop should be, you know, the average 1080p desktop. Once it goes past the 1080p resolution, when you start hitting 4K monitors and ultra wides and shit, like, then I would honestly put a max width in place, because you don't need to like support that, you know, like super wide screens. It's better to honestly put a max width in place and kind of have everything sort of like stop itself from growing now. Amazon, I think, do that. In fact, let me just double check on their site. I think they do that. Yeah, they do. I mean, the header expands all the way. So I've got a huge ultra wide in front of me, but the header expands all the way, but the main sort of document sort of stays in a max width. But that's going to be the first thing. And then only when you need to start, when you start hitting those barriers where, you know, like objects aren't really looking right, or they look odd, or they're kind of too tightly squeezed together, then start using things like flex row to flex column, right? So you see that will honestly fix a lot of your problems. And then only then start to move on to media queries. Otherwise, what I see is people using media queries before they've used Flexbox, and you're going to realize that you could have done a hell of a lot of stuff in Flexbox to fix your problem. That's why you honestly don't see me doing a lot of Flexbox, but obviously the builds aren't fully responsive because I'm like sort of strapped for time and on the live build, but I would recommend doing it that way. Aldo says, yeah, hackathon, I'm still learning, but if I can help in any way, I'm in. By the way, my Mac is dying, keep shutting down. Maybe it's off topic, but the new M1, it's okay for programming. Yes. By the way, my Mac was a mess, and I restored everything, and it's like unbelievably fast now. So I would recommend, if it gets honestly to that point, then definitely go ahead and maybe consider a restore. But the M1 is very good, yeah. Priyanshu is someone to talk to you about that, Aldo, because he has a M1. There are some like annoying little issues, but I think they've worked them out by now, and I don't think they probably won't affect you that hard. Okay, so Sunny, we should start a part for web design as well soon. All of us will benefit for sure. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so in that case, let's come up with a title for today. I think a lot of it, honestly, majority was frame of motion, frame and design sort of elements. Okay, so feel free, guys, to just yell at me in terms of the sort of the title for today's assets is Sunny Attorneys, if you go ahead and just drop out the sort of title for today's. So we're going to say framer.
Sunny, before that, I don't know, you know, your format on save was not working. Your VS Code format on save.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's have a look.
Yes, let's fix that, because I had the same issue too.
Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen. That's a good point, because I guarantee a few people are having that. So I had to restart my Mac, which means that I had to do it again as well. So the first thing you need to do is Command, comma, to open up settings, or you just go into settings, right? It's just being fancy about it. But you can go here to settings. And then once you're here, again, format on save. Okay, so format on save, right? And then you want to do this, right? So tick this. Now, if this doesn't do it, right? So if this is kind of not working, what I recommend is you go into your code editor, you do Command Shift P. So the little kind of, the little menu pops up, and type in format document. Okay. And now when you hit enter, if your formatter is selected, it would work, right? So it should format your document. But if it's not, a pop-up will come up saying you have multiple different formatters. Which one do you want to use? At that point, you hit enter and it'll give you your list. And then I clicked prettier, and then it'll set that to the default. Now, if that doesn't work, you might have not installed prettier. So you need to go to your extensions and install prettier and make sure that you have that as well, right? So that's the things that you need to consider. Again, another thing, if you've got a fresh machine, I might as well just say it now because I've done it. Again, go over to settings, and you say you use Emmet. I use Emmet quite a lot when I'm coding. Go to Emmet include languages and add this line here. So item JavaScript, value JavaScript, React. That means Emmet will now work on React, right? So, and if you don't know how to use Emmet, honestly, definitely check out Emmet, because I use Emmet all the time. I never used to. I used to think, no, I don't need to do that, but I use it. It is really good, right? Another one that I mentioned in the last Web Dev Essentials video was Kite, right? So Kite is another sort of they're actually coming up quite a lot now, these AI code completion tools, right? So Kite is a good AI completion tool. And basically, if you ever see me coding on a live stream or anything like that, and you're kind of like, whoa, like he's kind of coding pretty quick, like it's kind of like guessing on what he's going to write next, I'm using this Kite autocomplete. And basically, based on what I'm typing in, like it already has a model behind it that is kind of learned from a bunch of other examples on GitHub. But it then learns as I sort of use it more, and it starts to guess what I'm going to do next. Now, obviously, at times it gets it wrong, but this does help me speed up my coding. So you need to install this, and then you need to also install the helper. And the helper, I think it pops up the first time you sort of open VS Code with it installed. But if not, if you don't know how to do it, just Google how to install Kite for VS Code. Did that work, William?
I just fixed it with the command. Yeah, I just fixed it with the command Shift P, and it's working now.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm guessing it popped up with the
with two. I think one with plus and another was yes. So I go back to the previous. Yeah, that's working.
Yeah, that was it. That's what I had as a same issue.
All right. Thanks.
Welcome, dude. So yeah, that's that one. Any additional questions before we basically go ahead? And Jeremy says, I have a question.
Yeah. So yeah, where I work, we just recently have access to Firebase from a corporate level. And I have a React project that it is, I've got let's back up a step here. I've got a PowerShell script that does a bunch of data mining in my environment, and it dumps that data into a MySQL or a SQL database. I haven't found any clean way of going from PowerShell to Firebase, but the one thing that I have found is going from Firebase to a node endpoint. So my question is, without a request coming from React to Node, how would I get Node to populate data into Firebase?
Okay, so to answer, okay, so I got parts of it there. So your current database, where is it right now?
It's on-prem in a SQL database.
Okay, so you have a SQL database, but your sort of problem that you need to solve here is you need to get that into Firebase.
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, this is one of those sort of problems where okay, there's two options. There's one, you can check for, like, I guarantee someone's got a script for this that will basically, like, you can pretty much connect your SQL database and run a script. It will run through the tables, pull it in. But it, again.
Oh, no, sorry. I missed a step here. I'm going to be rebuilding that application from the ground up.
Okay.
And I'm not going to have anything to do with the SQL. It's going to be just Firebase.
Yep.
But the PowerShell is what's doing the data mining in my organization. and I still have to have a way of that data somehow of getting to Firebase.
Right. So when you say PowerShell, you mean your terminal pretty much. But
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I've got a PowerShell script that goes out and collects all kinds of information on devices once a day, and then it comes back and dumps that into a SQL database currently. But I want it to figure out how to dump that to Firebase.
Right. In your PowerShell, let me just double check something. PowerShell to Firebase. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you would have to. Let me just double the Firebase get.
Yeah, PowerShell is more like an advanced command line. You can use some like.
PowerShell. Is it for you mean for scripting basically, right? So it's like
Yes,
it's been a while
script.
since it's been a while since like SH scripts. Is it okay? So
it's a Windows stuff actually.
Yeah, that's why it's been a while. Let's have a look. So we've got the. Just double checking. Okay, so in PowerShell, you can make requests to endpoints, can't you?
Yes, yeah, I can make an endpoint to Node. That's not a problem. I just don't know how Node is going to get that to Firebase.
Okay. So Node has a nice SDK with Firestore. Let me double check Firestore Node SDK, because basically when you do okay, so if you've ever worked with a cloud function, it's basically Node. But the thing is, with a cloud function on Firebase, it already has admin access because it's on a cloud server. But in your case, it's not necessarily on the cloud server. So you're just going to need the Node.js client. I would recommend looking at this one. One sec. Let me go ahead and just check out this documentation. Basically, you're going to need to use the Node.js SDK to connect to Firestore, and then your PowerShell will go through will connect to that endpoint and pull the information that you're going to need. Now I'm just double checking. You can definitely do this though. You can definitely do this. But if you see, it says, okay, let me just double check. Post interest set, blah, 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 blah. Okay, have you checked out this library before, this one?
No, I have not.
Okay, so you see this right here. So you see installing the client library, npm install Google Cloud. This is a Node.js client, right? So what you would do here is you would have to, I'm not sure how the authentication fully works because it's been a while since I've used anything like this, but basically you would need to go ahead, create all of this, create your API, enable Cloud Firestore API on Google Cloud, and then you would set up an authentication so that way you can connect to it. But you basically go ahead and create something like this, right? So this would basically go ahead and work off of a Node.js endpoint. And you can maybe have your like Node.js sort of like your server running on an Express endpoint or whatever, however you want to implement it. But you can connect to Firestore through that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the one thing I'd say is everything that we do on the clone builds when it comes to sort of, like how I get information from the database on Firestore, all of it is sort of directly usable in this way. So you can see like document.set, you've got doc references, you've got like, you will have, I don't think on snapshot would work. I think you would have the very sort of higher level things of like setting, updating. Now just be careful with things like set, because when you come to this, just ping me a message if you get stuck on the sort of, the syntax stuff between like doc, set, update, get, delete, and all that stuff. Because set, for example, it's not just entering new data in. If you go ahead and set a current document, you might override the document. You have to pass in a second argument here in this little gap called merge true as an object, and it will basically stop you from overwriting your document, and you can just update properties. But again, if when you come to this point, give me a shout if you get stuck. But this is what you would need to use. Cloud Firestore Node.js client. Definitely, by the way, if you're going to do it, use Firestore, not the real-time DB.
Actually, Sunny, we're using the same thing in my current project. We access Firebase through the Cloud Function, through the Google Cloud Function, and we have another application run on-premise that backend with Node and front end with the GraphQL stuff. So when we call the GraphQL, we do a direct inserts to Firebase itself through Node. So, but actually, it's a good thing. The Cloud Function you mentioned, the Google Cloud Function will give them direct access to Firebase SDK.
Yeah. So you doing it through a Cloud Function, or are you doing it through?
Actually, we have it in two ways, but one way is we do it through Cloud Function too.
Yeah.
So basically, it's an HTTP endpoint, and you can have API actually keys in there, so who can access it. And in that Cloud Function, you can have Firebase SDK actually, and you can do insert directly to your Firebase.
Right. Okay. I see. Right. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So James, it was James, right, that answered the question. Jeremy. Sorry, Jeremy. So
let me just clarify real quick. You can have an endpoint in Cloud Functions.
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty okay. I was not aware of that. That's pretty cool.
Imagine this is our client. So this is the app, right? So this is going to be like your app or website or whatever it is. This is going to be your client. And then let's just say the app, right? And then basically you can either have your own server. So this could be like our own little server, right? So this is like our own sort of custom Node.js server, right? And if you do it this way, you can basically, you're going to have to use the Node.js client SDK, right? But the thing is, your authentication, you're going to have to deal with your authentication. You're going to have to get an API key, and you're going to have to authenticate your requests back and forth. But if you do it through so if you do it for a Cloud Function, Cloud Functions are honestly the game changers, because they're easy to maintain, two, they scale really well, and three, you have direct access to the DB, right? So in this case, when you have the Node.js server, say you want to connect to your DB, right? So let's say your Firestore DB is over here, right? You have to go, your client has to make a request to your server, and then you have to basically have some kind of interaction here, right? Now this requires a level of authentication, right? So you're going to need some kind of authentication to make this work. But let's say you don't do this way, right? Let's say you don't do any of this stuff, and let's say you make it through a Cloud Function, right? Now a Cloud Function, if your client connects to so Cloud Functions, once you deploy them, it will give you an endpoint, right? So it'll give you some kind of like quirky endpoint, right? So at the end of it, so you have some kind of nice little endpoint. And basically what's really nice is, because your Cloud Function and Firestore database live in the same ecosystem, right? You automatically have authentication right there. So it uses something called Firebase Admin, right? So you use Firebase Admin on your Cloud Function, and the documentation is really good for this bit, by the way. And basically you don't have to do any additional authentication. You automatically have access to your Firestore DB from your endpoints. You don't have to do any sort of this authentication headache or any of this sort of, like authenticating, getting API keys and stuff like that. You pretty much just write the code, use Firebase Admin to manipulate the DB, and then this will spit out an endpoint basically from your client or from your PowerShell, wherever you need to. You just call on that endpoint and it'll do it.
Okay. Wow, that's actually pretty slick. I like that.
Yeah.
That's actually a whole lot simpler than what I was trying to come up with in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. I would say if you haven't used Cloud Functions, give them a try. Maybe do it through Firebase first rather than Google Cloud, because it's kind of easier to do it that way. Google Cloud approach is a little bit messier, whereas with the Firebase approach, it would be a lot easier. But what I would recommend maybe is checking out
Actually, Firebase documentation, they have Cloud Function you can create directly. In their documentation, actually, they have that.
Yeah, and it's really nice documentation now. It used to be a bit kind of weird, but you definitely see the power behind it. And when you're working on this, definitely call on me or Mohammed, and we'll be happy to help you out on it.
Actually, one more ad. Actually, you Jeremy too, like we do kind of upload data to Firebase, like to an endpoint. And also sometimes the BI team come back to us and they say, hey, we want you to change the JSON to look like this format. So what we'll end up doing also, we create a cloud function that is data trigger. As soon as we have data inserted in Firebase, basically another cloud function, pull the data from Firebase, massage it in a way that BI team wanted and send it again to them. And this one also you can do it through cloud function, as Sunny mentioned, through data triggers. If any of the data got changed, format it in a way and send it to them.
Yeah, that it's so powerful, honestly. Like if you because it'll be a NoSQL structure. If a collection gets added to or removed or something else, that could be a trigger to then basically, like Mohammed said, you can pretty much go ahead and then have another thing run on it. And a really good example of this would be like, let's say you push a message into a database or into an area of your Firestore, and because something got added to a collection or added to a collection of I don't know, messages or whatever, you can pretty much trigger a cloud function to translate it into like 5 different languages and kind of push it to the database as well. And that could all happen pretty much. And all you would be doing is pushing to one endpoint, a message, and it would then do all the work behind the scenes. It's really, honestly powerful to a whole different level. And then they even saw that people were doing it and they made this thing called Firebase extensions. And we used an extension in the Netflix clone. So if you want to see more about how we do sort of some interaction with that stuff, Netflix clone's a good one.
Yeah, I played with that.
Yeah, that was like a cool example of extensions. But in this case, I'd recommend just spin up a very simple React app to sort of demo it out, and then do Firebase or do Firebase init, and then select cloud functions and just set it up and play with that as your first starting point. And that'll be the quickest way to get like up and running with this and have a little sort of run through on it.
I think we need some builds for that, or at least talk or do one of these coaching calls.
Yeah, functions. I agree with you. I think remind me on the next coaching call, we'll definitely cover cloud functions, because I think that would be a really handy topic to go over.
That, and eventually it would be nice to see a little bit more authentication, because eventually you can add a profile to your authentication and go further with that.
Yeah, exactly. And what you eventually want to do, I've never actually shown it much in a build, but you would authenticate the user, and then you would also store the user's ID in your database and have like a nice little link with them. Yeah, and then that way.
I see that was what's confusing me, because it's like, how do I change their first name, last name? How do I do this? How do I list all the users? And I've only had to do all that yourself, but it wasn't quite evident until like 3 weeks of me researching it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? But even then, if you do it in yourself in the way that I used to do it, so imagine like you had a mapping in your database, a collection of users, and then your ID would link the user. Then if you actually update the authenticated user, sort of their profile, and you don't update the collection, now you're out of sync, right? So there is ways about. Yeah, and then
that's the tricky part.
No, but there's this update profile function that I messed around with in the I think it was in the in one of the builds. I've messed around with it, but I definitely think we'll have a lesson and cover all of this.
Sure,
awesome.
Yeah.
I would assume it's the cloud function. We're going to use the Google one because it integrates very well with Firebase, not like the AWS, the Lambda, or the Azure function. The Google one looks very nice, actually. So I would assume we're gonna do the session on Google, right? Cloud function.
I was gonna do cloud function to begin with on Firebase cloud functions, and then we could do either or. To be honest, I've got more practice with Firebase cloud functions, but I can't imagine it being that far off between the two.
Sure.
Yeah. No, but definitely really powerful stuff. But Jeremy, definitely give us a shout and let us know if you need a hand with that.
Cool. Is there a last question with that? Is there a data limit?
A date
that you can upload in one kind of like push?
Not really, no. I think you would have, it's just you have a quota, so you have to be careful.
Right.
Yeah.
The Firebase endpoint calls, you have like a certain quota, as Sunny mentioned, like how many times you call this function, but technically with the free stuff, I think you do like 1 million requests. This is a long time ago I checked, but you can go check again, and it should not be that expensive. I think the least cheapest function you can the functions, they're very cheap to create, honestly.
Yeah.
They're way cheap.
Okay.
But if it comes to the point that you want it really fast to happen in a second or millisecond, that's then different. If you don't care, then you should be fine with the free coder, I think.
No, yeah, and the time is fine with me. I've got 2,000 plus objects with about 32 data points to each one of them that I would be pushing in one go.
How big is that in terms of size?
Yeah, the size is very important.
I don't know.
Right, because in this case, on this resource limit, you see like you've got the limit per request size. You've got 10 megs to sort of play with, and that can't be increased. So that's something to factor in. But I think, to be honest, I think that might be in standard with what you could do anyway. So it would be worth double checking that, yeah. But what you can do, honestly, is if you run into that problem, then you could then look at using something like Firebase storage and pushing to storage. They'll give you a link back, and then you basically upload the link where you need it. So they've got workarounds to this, because imagine you're uploading a video, for example. You wouldn't send an entire video in a request. You'd use Firebase storage to upload the video. They'll give you back a URL. You would upload that in the request to DB.
Yeah. That's also good. Okay. Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds fun.
Nice. All right. No, it's quite fun to play with, and definitely check out when you're doing it. Look at the emulator suite, because it's a new thing that they've somewhat new thing that they've added in, the cloud-based Firebase Cloud Functions emulator suite. Yeah, and it will allow you to emulate it and work on it really quick. Yeah. Okay. Let me go ahead and say, okay, so now what we'll do is we'll come up with a name for the entire session, and then we'll pretty much wrap up for today's build. So I think what we'll say is framer motion. I'll say portfolio ideas and inspiration. Anything else, guys? Just feel free to check it out. But framer motion. This is an intro to frame of motion. Portfolios, ideas, and inspirations. And guys, remember, put a challenge on yourself to implement those portfolio ideas, because there was quite a lot today in terms of the parallax effect, the sort of drag and drop. Remember the D&D tutorial. If you haven't seen D&D coaching call, definitely check out the D&D one. It's a really cool one. And we've got quite a cool sort of portfolio upgrade in that one. Anything else? So frame of motion was pretty much the majority of this build. Not really. I'm not going to add cloud functions to it. Okay, I guess we can pretty much leave it with intro to frame of motion and JS animations. JS animations, made to finish the basis and start the coaching goes training into portfolio. Nikhil, I would say honestly, start trying to do start trying to do either the clones, the coaching calls, because some of the coaching calls we do go through some basics as well. So definitely go ahead and like the thing is, don't block yourself with sort of, if stuff isn't available, just kind of take initiative and run with it in another area, because there is a lot of resources in terms of like coaching calls, clones, all that stuff, that even if you're a complete beginner, you can eventually remember. You don't need to necessarily fully understand every single line of code. You just need to slowly get the muscle memory and the pattern recognition kind of in place, and everything kind of builds off of that before you know it. It can be super intimidating because you kind of I have no idea what's going on, but before you know it, you start to see, okay, I've seen that word being used a ton of times. I've seen that word being used a ton of times, and start to draw the lines together and get where you need to go. Okay, guys. So I think with that said, we'll wrap up here. Remember, push for the success coaching, because we're starting interviews tomorrow on the sort of success coach team. So I think a few of you, Sanjay, Asad, and a few others have got interviews already, which is awesome. Sophia, I think is also, all of you guys for tomorrow. So anyone else, and I've also got loads of people. I've got a list of names as well that don't worry, Ben, I see you. we got a few people. Gabriel, William, all of you guys that like I noticed like whoever's kind of interacting, I kind of want to go ahead and try and get as many people involved as possible. But there will be an internal private Slack channel for the success coaches as well to kind of work on stuff and do things. So it'll be a lot of fun. And trust me, we'll set up tons of cool stuff together. It will also be a chance to work on really cool stuff in a sort of in a sort of closer team sense. So that'll be pretty cool. Okay, guys. I think with that said, so Avnish says, I don't know a lot about JavaScript, but still I can continue with the course and builds, right? Yes, honestly, just like start. And even if you don't know a lot, do the entire React basics, because I do break it down to quite a easy to follow level, and then we can kind of you can build from it from there. Okay, guys. With that said, I think we'll wrap up there, and I will see all the Diamond members tomorrow, because we've got a Diamond coaching call tomorrow, and this call will be up most likely the latest tomorrow morning, because it takes a few hours for Zoom to sort of finish it. But yeah, I'm sort of the reason why you're not seeing me on Twitch and on YouTube is because trying to get the internal stuff, trying to get course content, trying to get a lot of that stuff done, and then we'll be back on Twitch, YouTube, all that, and pushing hard. But yeah, guys, as always, appreciate you guys for turning up, and we have pretty much loads of people stayed to the end, which is awesome. And I will see you guys in the next session. Thank you, Sanjay, sweet word. Thank you, guys, Ola, and peace, guys. See you guys.
Thanks for a great build.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna start getting more dynamic with those outros because I feel like the energy needs to go way up. but don't worry, guys. It was a really fun session. All right, I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.